Welcome to the public meeting of the City School District of Albany Board of Education. If you have an intention to speak in our public comment period, there is a sign-in sheet right over on the table as you came in, and now would be a great time for you to go sign up. For those of you who choose to say the Pledge of Allegiance, we invite you to do that with us. If I can find the flag on the wall here. I pledge allegiance In addition to saying the Pledge of Allegiance, we always focus our meeting by restating the mission of the City School District of Albany, which is to work in partnership with our diverse community to engage every learner in a robust educational program designed to provide the knowledge and skills necessary for success. Mrs. Adams, do you have a report for us?
I do have a report. Thank you very much, Madam President, members of the board. The season of giving is upon us, and I want to honor and participate I also was honored to participate once again this year in the delivery of warm winter clothing to our students through Mayor Sheehan's annual Cash for Coats campaign. We had our announcement here at Philip Schuyler Academy on Monday, and the city delivered more than 600 coats and 3,000 other winter clothing items to our students this week. The Mayor's Cash for Coats program is an amazing community partnership. In addition to Mayor Sheehan, I'm also grateful for our co-sponsors for this event, the Yonaleys with B Lodge and Company and downtown's oldest department store, and Burke Companies, and the Palace Theater. So now that this is in its 11th year, the Mayor's Drive raised more than $15,000 during October and November. This was one of the highest totals in the campaign's history, and I would like to thank everyone who contributed to the support of our students. So if we could just have a round of applause for Cash for Coats. This is also a very festive time of the year, and students throughout our school district are getting ready to entertain family and friends at our winter concerts. The winter concert season officially begins with New Scotland Elementary School's performance at Hackett Middle School on Monday evening. Concerts will continue through December until the 20th. You may find the full schedule at albanyschools.org. A new sports season is also in full swing. There was an excellent story in Wednesday's Times-Union about 5 Albany High School student athletes who were playing varsity hockey through our partnership with Niskayuna and Schenectady. We are in our second year of this hockey partnership, and we will be cheering for our Mohawks this winter right alongside our Falcons. The first chance to catch one of Albany High's varsity teams is in action at home this coming Tuesday, when our girls basketball teams welcome Troy in a Suburban Council matchup. Please visit our athletics section for complete schedules of all of our modified, freshman, JV, and varsity teams. As we start to settle into the winter season, a reminder that the City School District of Albany offers a variety of ways for families to keep up to date on potential school delays or closings. You may follow us on School News Notifier, Facebook, and Twitter. You may also tune into many of our local TV and radio stations, and we will also update albanyschools.org whenever we have closings or delays. So please remember to rely on multiple sources of information. There's always the possibility that bad weather can knock out power or interrupt communication channels. That is why we use a wide range of tools to share these updates. We have a flyer here this evening with more information. I would now like to invite Philip Schuyler, Achievement Academy Principal Kendra Chairs Francis, to come forward and tell us about the great things happening here at her school. And she will be joined by several guests tonight. So thank you very much.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Adams, and Cabinet. On behalf of this Phillips Schuyler community, I'd like to thank you for coming to our school, and that we appreciate the opportunity to share some of the wonderful things that we have happening at our school. Joining me today, I have our student council, our president here, Kimberly Santiago, who's going to share a few words with you. In addition to that, I have my assistant principal, Emma Steckman. So I'm going to pass it over to Kimberly.
Thank you for allowing us to speak this evening. Hello, my name is Kimberly Santiago Montez, and I am Phillips Schuyler Achievement Academy's Student Government President. I am here to inform you about our school. We have high-quality, hard-working teachers. We have many to serve students from all around the world. We are a building that is always learning and growing. We enjoy doing fun projects while learning to problem solve. We are a part of student government because we are able to show support to each other while having a voice to make a change within our school but also our community. We raised $120 for breast cancer research, and we are currently collecting stuffed animals for kids who are in the hospital during the holiday time. As a school, we look forward to learning new life lessons and following the right path to college. In conclusion, we are looking forward to endless learning so we can be the best that we can be, Schuyler Achievers. Thank you.
In addition to speaking tonight, our student council has put together a video. And in the video, what they did is they reached out to members of our Schuyler community to have them share with you what's special about our school. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Ms. Susan Polt, who is the teacher who is in charge of our student government. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Tanya Venable, and what I like about Phillips Schuyler Achievement Academy is that we are a family and we are united as one.
What do you want people to know about the school? That the school is cool. The school is nice. We take care of our school, and we be respectful and responsible to our school, and we be safe.
We have amazing students here at Phillips Schuyler. Also, we have amazing teachers and support staff.
That Phillips Schuyler is a school full of diversity. We have a lot of wonderful ethnicities here, so we're representing ENL hard.
I want people to know that this school actually helps us learn, and this school helps us do incentives. Incentives is a fun way to earn something because you act good.
Hi, my name is Sahadia Pierre, and what I love about Schuyler is the hospitality and the love you feel when you enter the door.
I want people to know about our school.
Yeah, we like to play outside and we like to do a lot of homework.
That's all you want to say?
Yes.
So what I love about Schuyler is getting to come to work every day to work with our wonderful students and our teachers and our community members and parents.
Hello, what I like about Phillips Schuyler is the administration. Administration is phenomenal. Also, I love the students and their different personalities. They all have something to contribute to the classroom culture.
The good education.
Is that all?
Yes.
Is that we have a very interesting community here. We have people that have always lived in Albany who go to school here. We have people who have lived in other states that go to school here. And we have people that come from halfway around the world, from many different countries, who come to school here. And we all are a happy family.
What I love about Schuyler is the dedicated staff. The staff is phenomenal here, from our leadership all the way down to our custodians, our kids are resilient. They've been through a lot, but they bounce back. They're resilient and they're going to soar. I love everything there is to about Schuyler. Thank you.
They have good food, and that they do good teaching. Okay, that's it? Is that all?
Being nice.
something good about the school. They're good for everybody. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Mike Poindexter. What I love about Schuyler is that we are a community school. We've partnered with over 10 to 15 different community partners. We've partnered with our parents to make sure that our students receive the best enrichment and education that we can give them.
It's clean. Poindexter did a good job. Peace out.
All right, thank you. Shout out to Mr. Poindexter for putting that video together and our student council for capturing the footage. So I will be as quick as I can to kind of take you through. All right. All right, so I will be, as you know, I speak fast, so this is not going to take any time. I just want to take you through a couple key pieces. In terms of our mission and vision, it remains the same for this year, but we actually are in the process of revising our vision statement. The reason being is that this is my second year here as a leader, and we just want to be clear about the direction that we need to go as a building. And in addition to that, we've had some sessions with staff, at least 3 sessions to date, where we had the opportunity to clarify the difference between a mission and vision, and to really look at our vision to see if it's the direction that we wanted to go in. So currently we have a draft in place. We sent it to get approval, and once we have that in place, then we'll look at our vision to make to look at our mission to make sure that our mission steps are going to take us where we want to go in the future. In terms of our staff, we have had some transition with staff this year. However, we haven't added any additional positions. Hold on a second, I'm sorry. We haven't added, I'm sorry, is it students? Should be the student slide. Okay, so we haven't added any additional positions, but one of the things that we have done is revise our systems and our programs and redefine our roles to make sure that everybody is doing the jobs that they need to do to make sure that we are successful as we transition to a community school. I'm missing a slide. Okay, so in terms of there it is. That's the slide. So in terms of our student population, we really haven't shifted much. If you were here last year when we did the presentation, while we have lost a few students when we look at the demographics of the subgroups, we're pretty much the same. The only thing that did happen is we got an increase in our female students, and so we're pretty much 50-50 there. One of the things that we have noticed this year is, though, an increase in the number of our students with disabilities, which has contributed to our numbers, high numbers in our co-teach classrooms. So that's really the only switch that we've seen in terms of our demographics. In terms of our goals, our SEP goals this year, as you know, because we're out of receivership, we actually transitioned to a SEP. And for our SEP, our tenant, okay, you can give us a clap for that. So we did transition to a SEP, and because we have a SEP, we actually are going to align our goals with the tenants. In terms of tenant 2, one of the big things that we focused on this year as a leadership team was making sure that we provided targeted feedback to our staff. And we did that by creating a tiered system, which really ensures that instructional staff get the feedback and the support that they need relative to where they are in terms of their development as professionals. And that's actually a process that I actually learned at the conference that I attended this summer, the MPLI. I was able to collaborate with some staff, some other administrators that are from Texas, and they gave me the idea, and I was able to actually make some gains with that. In terms of tenants 3 and 4, tenant 3 focuses on curriculum and planning, and tenant 4 focuses on instructional practice. Our big goal this year, initially we thought we would get into higher order questioning, we would focus on differentiation, we would focus on engagement, but what we really did through my walkthroughs, what really came out is we really need to do some work with engagement. And so the focus that we decided to take was to use student-led discussions, which is also referred to as accountable talk, to help students lift their learning and their comprehension by engaging them in discussion about what they're learning. And so a big focus for that is really whole classroom conversations, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So that's really tenant 2 and tenant 3. In addition to that, tenant 3 and tenant 4. In addition to that, what we've done is we've instituted a data protocol for reviewing our NWEA data. And so what that's allowed us to do is to get a better sense of how to use that data skillfully to target instruction to make sure that we increase outcomes for our students. So that's something else that we've done this year. In terms of tenant 5, was really challenging to work at Schuyler last year because we had some challenges with behaviors. And so our big focus this year was really getting systems in place to make sure that we can create a safe and orderly learning environment for our students. And so that was paramount. And under the leadership of my assistant principal, we did a lot of work there. And in terms of Tenet 6, our big focus as a community school was really to expand our learning opportunities for our students so that our students could have rich experiences that would allow them to connect with their school community, but also the community in Albany and the world. So just to briefly, because we instituted that protocol, as I said, we have Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 teachers, and really those ranks are based on data and also years of experience. And so all my Tier 1 teachers, I've been able to get in their classroom twice a month. Tier 2 teachers, 4 times a month, and my Tier 3 teachers, I get in their classrooms 8 times a month. And so to date, I've been able to, myself and Ms. Steckman have been able to do 106 walkthroughs from September to now. In terms of Tenet 3, as I referred to, one of the big things that we were focusing on is in accountable talk and student-led discussions. One of our big things this year is to really promote teacher leadership. And so our teachers have really taken this on because they've had a lot of training through the Center for Educational Leadership around accountable talk. And so what they're doing is they actually planned a professional development for the teachers. They created a rubric, and their focus is really to use the Wonders curriculum, which incorporates an essential question every week. And so one of the things that they've decided to do is to try to integrate the accountable talk on Fridays so that the students can process the learning that they've done throughout the course of the week to help to lift their understanding. And so they're set to offer professional development for their colleagues this coming Thursday. And again, with Tenet 4, again, in addition to that, one of the things that we did, I said, was the data protocol. And so what we've done is we've done 1 to date, but we have 3 data dives scheduled this year. And in those practices, we've engaged in data walls where we chart NWEA data. We've done Tier 1 planning meetings where we meet as groups to differentiate instruction and provide grade level plans. And in addition to that, we've tried out the NWEA screeners and checklists, which allows us to progress monitor data to see if our students are on track. Now, we've only piloted that this year, but what we've seen is that in the classrooms that we've piloted it with, which have been our leadership team classrooms, students are on track to make their goals this year, and so we really feel confident about that. In terms of Tenet 5, as I mentioned, it was rough at Schuyler last year, and so we really had to strategize around how we could create a safe and orderly learning environment. And I say it's rough because we had at least 1,000 referrals last year, discipline referrals. And so one of the things that we really focused on this summer, again, under the leadership of my assistant principal, was really making sure that we had some really tight targeted systems to prevent, to respond, and to intervene as it relates to student behavior. But I don't want to neglect spotlighting what the teachers did, because they also assembled and decided that they needed to do some Tier 1 work. And one of the things that they decided to hold hands around was establishing peace corners in their classrooms, because we had a lot of challenges with students leaving supervision when frustrated. And so everyone just decided that they were going to create a safe space in the classroom so that when students were experiencing frustration, there would be a place for them to reflect. And so the other thing I wanted to highlight is we instituted or piloted an ISS protocol that really, rather than suspending students, what we do is we have created a process where students have the opportunity to reflect on their behaviors, to get some teaching and support from our behavioral support team, and to have a plan to actually do some restorative practices relative to what wrongs they've done or committed through their misconduct. And in addition to that, have a transition plan to successfully integrate them back in the program. We've really felt good about that because it's eliminated our out-of-school suspensions. In terms of Tenet 6, a big focus as a community school, as I said, was to really expand our learning opportunities. And through the leadership of Mr. Poindexter, he has done a really good job to really get us out there in terms of social media. You can check us out on Facebook and Instagram. And there we have a lot of, he's really highlighted all the wonderful, robust programming that we've offered. And in addition to that, he has really making good use of the robocalls. So it's so funny because the parents are like, you called me again. So every time we have an event, he makes sure that he puts out a call so that parents know to come, and they have definitely shown up in good numbers. So we're really excited about that. In addition to that, one of the big, I was a self-contained special education teacher when I was a teacher. And so meeting the needs of Tier 2, Tier 3 students is something that I'm very passionate about. And so one of the things that I collaborated with Mr. Poindexter and Fourth Family was to establish an after-school enrichment program that targeted these students. Equity is very important to me, and access is very important. So I really wanted to make sure that we had programming that ensured that all students could benefit from our extended learning opportunities. And so we've actually partnered with Fourth Family, and it's really going well. And I'm super excited that our students who often are not able to participate have have had an opportunity to participate. So I really feel great about that. And in addition to that, because we have a really robust professional development embedded PD schedule this year, Mr. Poindexter has been able to collaborate with many of our community partners so that when teachers are engaging in professional development out of the building, we actually bring our community partners in to provide supports for students. So we have had CEFCU here, we have Capra Rep, we've had Cornell Cooperative Extension, Nikki's Yoga. I mean, the kids have had such great experiences when their teachers have been out. So we are really excited about the great things that are happening at Schuyler, and thank you so much for the opportunity for providing us the opportunity to spotlight that. And while we are not sure where we'll land at the end of the year, we certainly feel very confident about our place thus far. So thank you.
That concludes the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Adams, and thank you, staff and children from Schuyler. We appreciate your all being here tonight with us. You did an excellent job. So this is the time in our meeting that we set aside to hear from district residents, parents, students, and other members of the public. We welcome community input about the decisions we're making. In addition to accepting comments tonight during public comment, we also accept comments by email, by phone, and by postal mail. If you're making remarks tonight, please keep in mind that by law, information about individual students and specific district staff cannot be shared. Every student and every staff member deserves to know that concerns about them will not be aired in public. Also, please keep in mind that public comment is not the best place to first alert the district to a concern you have. Please share concerns first with relevant staff, such as the teacher or principal. If you feel the concern is not addressed adequately, you may appeal that to that person's supervisor up the chain of command, if necessary, to the superintendent. Decisions made by the superintendent may be appealed to the board. Finally, please note that we generally do not respond during public comment. If you need a response, please consider contacting us by email, by phone, or by postal mail. When I recognize you, please state your name and your city of residence. Statements are restricted to a maximum of 3 minutes. Ms. Lang will give you a 1-minute notice and a 10-second notice, and I will notify you if your time has expired. And our first speaker tonight is Ann Erling. Hey, Ann, can you double check that the mic is on? Pull it towards you.
Hello?
That's better.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. I'm Ann Erling from Albany, and I'm here to speak in support of efforts to strengthen Albany's IB program. Surprise about that. I was very happy to see the self-study documents and IB's response made available. I was also impressed with the thoughtful materials that have been prepared for tonight's meeting. I'd like to add the following 2 points to the record. 1, the number of certificates and diplomas earned doesn't reflect actual or potential interest. Students in line-turn certificates last year lost that chance when the second half of a course they began was canceled, and when for another class the school lost track of key submission deadline. Students also have for years been steered away by guidance counselors, and of course without promotion of the program, lots of potential students haven't known enough to opt in. A second quick point is that from IB's perspective, the courses that take 2 years to complete are still a single course, so the actual number of IB courses offered at Albany High from IB's perspective, that is recorded in the list in the left-hand column on page 4 of the college level rigorous programs report, should read 11 and not 19. That said, I'm heartened to see that the list of next steps includes meeting the requirements of the IB review and moving forward to strengthen IB here in Albany. I would love for parents to be invited into that process. I at least have lots of thoughts which can't be fit into a 3-minute public comment. An important time-sensitive point to make right now, students and parents need more than a list of courses to understand IB, and with guidance counselor meetings to establish next year's schedule set to begin in January, time is running out to get that information distributed in time for this year's crop of students, especially 10th graders who will need to decide whether to be IB or not in a matter of months. If the district doesn't already have something ready to distribute in the next few weeks, I recommend that it use or adapt the guide that the PTA put out last year to get something distributed quickly. I'd be happy to provide access to that and or help with revisions. I also want to speak to interest in expanding into the lower grades. I'd love to see that kind of expansion, and if successful, I think it would really strengthen our academic programs and increase numbers in the diploma program. That said, I don't think we need the expansion to save the diploma program. We can increase numbers of diploma and certificate earners by adequately promoting the program and giving students and parents the info they need to fully understand it, by addressing scheduling conflicts, most vitally with wind ensemble, advanced orchestra, and popular AP offerings, and by adding an additional higher level course options so that students don't have to pursue an arts pathway to earn a diploma. The work to restore a strong IB program is worth doing. IB prepares students really well for college and life. I see how the program is requiring my daughter to take ownership of her own learning and identify and pursue her own interests, which is fantastic. Furthermore, IB's international mindset and valuing of diversity is the RX our students need to meet today's challenges, and it's a natural fit for Albany High given Albany's diverse student population. So thank you. Let's do what we can to save and strengthen IB.
Thank you, Ms. Erling. Amelia Colafatti.
I'm Amelia Colafatti from Albany. Good evening. My name is Amelia Colafatti, and I'm currently an IB diploma candidate at Albany High School. This year, the district has managed to allow me to continue with my goal of ultimately graduating as a full IB student and has pulled a number of strings to make this happen, for which I'm very grateful. For me, this year's classes have been enriching, thought-provoking, and challenging. The math lab, which was set up as an extra class to fulfill the IB requirement for math, has quickly become one of my favorite classes of the day. All the classes, furthermore, have helped me to strengthen my scheduling capabilities. I have had to be able to allot time outside of my academic coursework in order to begin to complete the outside projects related to IB, such as CAS, or Creative Action and Service, and the extended essay. However, others in the district are not getting a chance to experience this opportunity. If my mom had not known about IB, I probably would not have known the program was an opportunity for me at Albany High School. I know a lot of my classmates did not know almost anything about the IB program before I mentioned it to them. Personally, however, I have found this program to be a truly rewarding experience thus far, and I only hope that other students in the district get to experience it likewise. I hope, therefore, that the board will continue to consider keeping and expanding the IB diploma program at Albany High School so that more and more students can have the enriching experience that I have been so grateful to have thus far this year. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ms. Colafatti. Sam Shepard.
Good evening. I'm Sam Shepard. I live in Albany. I want to start by thanking you all for serving on the board and for everyone for being here tonight. I was pleased to see that the Albany High rigorous courses was on the agenda for tonight. Those courses are in part one of the reasons why my family chooses Albany Public Schools and why I recommend Albany Public Schools to prospective students. Regarding the IB program in particular, I think this program suffers from two misconceptions. The first is that it's being demolished by neglect. Is this an accurate perception? I don't know. But one way to challenge this idea would be for the district to produce a video of our superintendent talking about this unique program that is accessible to all. We are so lucky to have an amazing public speaker in Kawita Adams. A video on this topic, like the ones produced last spring, would be an effective way to share information and inspire confidence. Mrs. Adams, I hope you'll make a video. The second misconception is that IB classes are only for elite students. The district's own data show that some kids think they can't hack courses that are more rigorous. But robust IB programs from schools with demographics similar to ours would dispel this myth. In fact, IB classes can help students who aren't at the top of their class. Even if students don't pursue the full IB diploma, the classes offer an opportunity to develop skills and gain confidence. These are things that will serve students well after high school, no matter their next pursuit. Finally, I would caution against putting too much weight on what the students say about courses being too much work. Hard work can be a good thing, and we should take what they say with a grain of salt. After all, these are the very same teenagers who responded in a survey about the food in the cafeteria that it's horrible, but they want more of it. I want to thank you, the staff who put together this information. I thought it was an excellent packet, and I look forward to a restoration of the programs that can help not only so many students, but also help raise the bar for our school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shepard. Bob Fulham.
Let's see, still on? Yes. So yes, I am Bob Fulham. I'm a city resident. I'm a parent of 3 daughters, graduates from 08, 10, and 12. and a mentor of a sponsor a scholar student, an African-American student that graduated in 14. You know, I'm going to risk some of my 3 minutes here on IB, which is what I really want to speak about, to say, isn't this great? I haven't been in this building before. And if you're new here, you may not know that this is because a bunch of parents came together. The then superintendent, I'll say then superintendent so there's no misunderstanding, was opposed to it. The then school board was opposed to it. And it took that group of parents and citizens to come together and bring everybody on board gradually. Took a few years, and to get that $200 million proposal on the budget and to get it passed. It was the parents that really did that. I think that's wonderful. So anyway, IB. I want to speak to the importance of the IB diploma program for students going to college. Because as I think we all know, the goal isn't just to graduate here and send a kid off and maybe fail, all right, be overwhelmed. So here's what I learned from my 3 daughters and from my mentee. All 4 were in the diploma program and got the diploma. They all got into what I'll call highly selective liberal arts programs. What they found was this. In those programs, they met a lot of students that had been very privileged. They'd been to private schools, very special schools, had all the benefits of the world, and they were super prepared. There were other students that weren't quite as well prepared. These 4 kids kind of fell in the middle. What they felt, each of them, and I asked my middle daughter this again 3 hours ago, you know, how did you make it through that, you know, very difficult program? And what she said is it was the cohort, the fact that we worked together for those couple years. We were surrounded, in other words, by just people doing this. And what a difference that makes versus I'm in this class and then I goof off in that class. Instead, you're there and it's tough. That was one. Number 2 was the essay, the 4,000-word essay. As my daughter said, there were kids I went to college with, and she went to the college that U.S. News and World Report says is the most difficult one to get into in the country. She said there were kids there that hadn't written a paper more than 2 pages long in high school. They were overwhelmed. But she'd written a 4,000-word page. She knew something about how to do that. What a tremendous difference that was. Third point was the Theory of Knowledge core course. It gave them some real perspective. So I want to go back again to being parents. I was one of the parents that helped work with the then principal, Mike Chiaffi, to bring this program here. This was our goal. And I dug out tonight one of my grant proposals, actually, to a major financial institution. You could call it a key institution, I guess.
Mr. Pullum, can you finish your sentence and wrap it up,
yes.
please? Thank you.
And it was to develop diversity in the program. We're proud that in year 2, we got to 20% African-American students. I think simply the support has dwindled a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Annalise Smith.
Good evening. Thanks. My name is Annalise Smith. I'm a resident here in Albany and the parent of 2 daughters who graduated from Albany High. Allie, my second daughter, was a member of the 2007 first IB graduating class. I'm really happy to be here to speak in support of the program. I was part with Bob Fulham on that initial advocacy group, and we worked with the IB coordinator. We assisted in family and parent meetings. We did a number of things to help support the program and getting it going. One thing I was most happy with is that we were concerned that the exam fees might get in the way of a full participation in the program. So we worked with the Albany Fund for Education and were able to make funds available so that those exam fees were covered for all low-income students. And I'm very delighted that the school board and the school district have subsequently taken on all of those fees for IB, for all of the college and the program courses. So over the years, I was initially humbled by my daughter's thought process after taking IB courses, and I'm thinking back to the pablum I received in high school, nothing like the IB thought process. And I remember when Shakira, one of the students in her graduating class, had to choose between Williams and Harvard. with a tough, nice package to both of those, and realizing, yeah, I guess the IB program can make a difference with those college applications. And over the years, I was thrilled with hearing teachers after taking the mandated IB courses, talking about how they integrated those strategies into all of their other programs. And I love hearing stories about parents that move their families to this district specifically because of the IB program. However, we all recognize that there are some big challenges in doing the program. The IB requirements are specific, demanding, wide-ranging, the deadlines are onerous, the training for teachers is extensive, and if any of you haven't looked at the materials the district has provided, you'll find out it truly is. So the work that the district has put into maintaining this program is ever so appreciated. With hindsight, I just want to make two suggestions and two critical factors. One is an active and involved parents group. We worked a lot, and they can be the front line for recruitment, for addressing problems, for sharing information, for whatever the board needs. And the other is the critical importance of having a committed, nonstop, passionate, outspoken IB coordinator. And I wish you all the best in finding that person, because the program is too important to let go. And thank you all for all of your efforts in keeping it at where it is. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Patrice Mitchell, did I get that right? Patrice Mitchell?
My name is Von Treese, and I live in Albany County. I have two children that attend Delaware. This is my hometown, I guess, school, my zip town school, I guess that's how you say it. You all are making it extremely hard for me to be able to provide for my children right now. Last year, I battled with the school district in regards to aftercare for my son who's on the spectrum. That came back to it has to be on his IEP. Now this year, I cannot get my children on the same school bus to get to school together, which then makes it difficult for me as a mother to be able to get to work. I don't have a support system like that to say, okay, this person can drop them off to school or pick them up or watch them. And then on top of it, you want me to be in two places at two different times when they're going to the same school. I've requested information or policy procedure that states where my typically developing child cannot ride on the same school bus as their non-typically developing child, and to no avail. Nobody has answered me back. I went to the school, the registrations office and spoke with Denise. I've spoken with Ron. I've sent certified letter asking for this written information that states that they cannot ride on the same school bus, and to no avail. How would you all like me to work and provide for my children when I can't even get them to school or get them home? What would you like me to do? And this is the same question I ask everyone, and I get the blank stares. I'm only one person. I understand that somebody else's responsibility to take care of my children but me, and I'm doing my best that I can with the resources that I have, but then it's something as simple as putting them on the same school bus. It's so easy for you guys to say no, but then you come up with no resolution to help me. So again, I'm here to request the policy, procedure, regulation, whatever the case that states that my two children cannot get on the same school bus. That's all.
Ms. Mitchell, can I ask you to please give Ms. Sturdivant at the very end here your contact information, phone number and all of that, so we can get back to you? Would that be okay? Thank you very much. The last person on the list, Catherine Bamberger.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Bamberger. I'm a parent and a taxpayer and a friend and a big fan of you. I really don't think that people appreciate the amount of time and effort that the board members put in uncompensated time, by the way, heavily critiqued time, by the way. And I do want you to know that we do appreciate it. I wanted to share with you a little story about a young lady that I know pretty well. When she was a baby in a bucket still, there were a group of families who felt very strongly about having small neighborhood schools at the elementary level, and they banded together and they helped to pass a resolution, people advocating for small schools. That little baby in the bucket who benefited from having newly constructed, newly renovated schools is now a junior. All through her earlier years, her dad was a teacher in a neighboring district, and our plan was we were going to leave in middle school. We were going to leave in high school. And we were going to take our child out of the district from our hometown, from her hometown, because that was going to be what was best for her, and that was the only thing we had in mind. In the meantime, we've come to know and love all of our neighbors and our friends. We've had a great experience. She's been in a lot of different buildings, but we've always had an eye toward the International Baccalaureate program. She's now enrolled in Theory of Knowledge, IB Americas. She had to drop the IB Math because it was a little too challenging, and she's an AP Language. So she's taking a variety of both IB and AP level courses, and I'm very proud of her for doing that. But it was not easy. We had to ask, we had to beg, we had to research. We had to ask again, what is required? How do we do this? She took a course that was co-seated, and when we asked her teacher what she needed to do for her Spanish class in order to get IB credit, as a sophomore, there was no answer, and it was very difficult to find. So I just wanted to share that experience with you, that as much as we talk about this is our GEM program, this is our STAR program, the consistency and the effort and the knowledge and the information is not being shared as readily as we would like to think it is. And if we truly believe in that program, which I do as a global business professional, this is my job, this is what I do. I talk to people all the time, all over the world, and business people in our community on a regular basis. The collaboration, the writing skills, the integrated knowledge, the debate skills, the speaking skills that are all core foundational tenets of the International Baccalaureate program is exactly what we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bamberger. So now is the time in our meeting that we move to a section we call routine consent. During this part of the meeting, we approve routine matters for the district. These usually include items such as contracts, field trips, hiring of personnel, and other similar matters. Voting on these as a group with no discussion allows us to use our meeting time more efficiently. Each Board of Education member has the option to set aside any routine consent item in order to require discussion and a complete separate vote on that item. So with that introduction, I will now entertain a motion to adopt the routine consent agenda. Do I have a motion, Ms. Wilson? Do I have a second, Ms. Smith? Are there any set-asides? Seeing none, I'm sorry. Oh, Ms. Wilson, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. What would you like to set aside?
Number 10.
Setting aside number 10, and just to make sure that we're all on the same page, number 10 is the Abrooken resolution. Okay, any other set-asides? So all in favor of adopting the routine consent agenda, less number 10, the Abrooken resolutions. That's all in favor. That is unanimous. May I have a motion to adopt number 10, the Abrooken resolutions? Dr. Chatoor, seconded by Ms. Roach. Is there any discussion? No problem. 1 second.
Sorry for the delay. And the suspense, I apologize. So after section 4, it talks about more about the easement area. And my last question is just simply, as far as the parking spots, do we have any additional information about like our level of use and overlapping, like the overlap that could potentially be there? And that was like the one question that emerged. I apologize.
Mr. Hogan?
Yes, we actually went back and negotiated. There's 15 spaces up near Central Avenue in the front of the building. Those are going to be shared use, but we set it up as a 7-year expirable license agreement. So after 7 years, it's really at the district's willingness to renew it for subsequent 5-year periods. And the reason it was 7 years, the first one, is because they will probably not use it at all the first 2 years they'll be under construction.
Totally understand. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor? Oh, good. All in favor of the Brooklyn easements? That is unanimous. Okay, so after routine consent, that brings us to our first action item, which is on the budget calendar. For those of you who don't attend meetings all the time, you may not be aware that we always discuss, or almost always discuss, an item at one meeting and then vote on it the next time. There was a fairly robust discussion of the budget calendar 2 weeks ago when we met. We are always able to continue that discussion if we need to, but often we do act with no discussion because we had a robust discussion 2 weeks ago. The intention of that is to give people in the public a chance to give us more feedback during that 2-week period. So may I have a motion to adopt the budget calendar as online right now? Ms. Alexander-Mann, is there a second? Ms. Smith, is there any discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. We now turn to the next section of our agenda, which is the policy section, and I'm going to turn the microphone over to Dr. Tator to talk about policy.
Madam President, members of the board, again, I bring to you these 3 policies that we discussed at the last board meeting. Policy 5440, which is the alcohol, tobacco, and other substance abuse, use/abuse. 5460, which is child abuse in a domestic setting. And 0110, which is a sexual harassment policy. Any questions? Any of these? If there are no questions, may I see a motion to approve? First by Ms. Smith, second by Ms. Wilson. All in favor?
The second was Ms. Alexander-Mann or Ms. Wilson? We're going to do them all together, yeah.
All in favor?
All in favor? That's unanimous.
Thank you.
The next topic on our agenda for tonight is the National Principals Leadership Institute 2018 cohort. There are a lot of chairs around this table, which is wonderful. We look forward to hearing from our wonderful leadership staff.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. We have an outstanding group of administrators who were able to attend a leadership development in New York City this summer, the National Principal Leadership Institute. And the theme this summer was having the courage to have difficult conversations. And so one of the things that we did as a leadership team, looking to Cecily and Lori through their leadership, who would be people that might benefit from this type of conference or institute, because a conference is where you get to choose, and an institute is where everyone attends everything. And so throughout this presentation, you're going to hear of the phenomenal people that they were able to engage with. And as we go through our PowerPoint, you can see that as an alignment with our vision, so that we are working to not only provide that caring relationship and engaging learning experiences for our students, we're looking at doing that for our leadership as well. One of our main goals is to build leadership capacity and increase accountability, and without being able to engage our leaders in that type of training and experiences where they get to listen to people from all over the world and have conversations about topics that are critical to their work from people in other parts of the country as well. So we're learning from each other. They're being able to hear what's happening in other districts and then bring those things back to us. The objective of them participating in NPLI, you'll see it's so that they can bring back research-based strategies and implement in their daily practice. The way in which we're looking to monitor this is so that they can implement various things that they come across. You heard that from Ms. Chairs Francis earlier this evening, that she learned something and brought it back to her campus, and she'll talk a little bit more about that. In the next portion of the presentation, this will be measured through the walkthrough tools when their supervisors are walking with them to see how that implementation is going. And then also just in ensuring that the supervision at the building level is aligned with the areas of improvement within their set, and making sure that the training that they are receiving is directly aligned to the work that they are doing. So with that, let me introduce our cast of characters, just so that you know exactly who they are. Gabe Barbado, principal at Eagle Point, is with us. Kendra Chairs Francis, principal here at Schuyler. Tia Corniel, principal at Pine Hills, who was an assistant principal when she attended the Institute. Marie Cullihan, principal at Albany School of Humanities. Jared Fox, assistant principal at Giffen Memorial Elementary School. Zipporah Gallimore, assistant principal at Pine Hills. Marilyn Jones Oliver, assistant principal at New Scotland. Jason Rogers, assistant principal at Giffen. And Katie Stalker, assistant principal at Toast. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. And so for this first information, we're going to turn it over to Katie.
NPLI was born. It was founded by 3 veteran educational leaders who came together. They were dedicated to providing leadership growth and transformation in our schools, knowing that change is a process, not just an event like a workshop at a conference. They made it very clear at the onset, and we got to meet all 3 of them, Dr. Smith, Dr. Close, and Dr. Fonseca. They made it very clear that it was an institute, not a conference. And so what set it aside from other types of what you would think is a conference is that we all experienced a learning opportunity together with leaders across the country and some parts of the world. We listened to speakers that were part of the civil rights movement, Dolores Huerta, that was part of the labor movement. We had some really amazing leaders to make some connections to the big picture in education. The founders really felt that leaders don't get enough opportunities to discuss the why. Why do we do what we do in education? So that was really the premise of developing the Institute in 1998. And so part of the process is learning together, then breaking out into sessions where you're really taking a look at the problem and the theme, and defining some solutions together and talking about experiences that you're having in one part of the country, similarities in other parts of the country and the world, and then having an opportunity to present in front of your colleagues and also global leaders, so retired superintendents and educational leaders from across our country, and to receive some feedback from them as well. And so it was, it's a pretty amazing experience to be a part of, and you'll hear from some of my colleagues what their experiences were.
Jared? We have to give you the microphone.
You can pull it off the stand if that's more comfortable for you.
Hello? All right. So One of the nice parts about it was that we were able to break off into groups and actually go out into different companies and different businesses that exist. I got the opportunity to choose IBM, and I was able to go to the IBM headquarters down in the city. We went to the CEO boardroom, and we were able to actually look at firsthand how they run their meetings, how they run their leadership meetings, which was a great opportunity. We got, after kind of going through what they do, they actually taught us those strategies and gave us some of those, some of the workshops that they did with us inside. And the nice part about it was I was able to bring it back to Giffen, and over the summer we had multiple meetings that we used those templates, which I know you guys have the further details, but it was called GROW, and part of it was to be able to create that goal and actually have an active meeting where you are achieving a goal. Like, you have to achieve the goal, right? Instead of, we all been to meetings before where everyone talks but nobody actually achieves that goal. The IBM template that I was able to bring back allowed us to be able to achieve our goal that we wanted to, and actually we got a lot of positive feedback for it, and I still use it to this day. So thanks.
Good evening. My name is Sippy. Feel free to call me that because I zip around the building often, so if you are visiting, you'll see me doing that. I just want to begin by thanking Superintendent Adams, the cabinet, and the board for allowing me to participate in this inspiring opportunity. When I was visiting, I was able to participate in the West Point Expeditionary Learning, and during that time, I was able to meet the men and women who serve our country and risk their lives every day so that we are able to build leaders and push the focus on developing individuals who understand and value culturally responsiveness, and integrity and equity, and believe in providing access for all of our students. So one of the things that I found very encouraging when I participated is their conceptual process for leadership development, which I noticed in looking through that process matched very well with our leadership framework at Pine Hills Elementary. Throughout the whole conference, one thing that I left with was the importance of individuals finding their voice and inspiring others to find theirs, and that happens to be habit number 8, which we at Pine Hills have started to shift and make sure our students are developing that habit and are able to have a voice in what goes on in the school community and different decisions that are made in the school community, so that we'll continue that work. But thank you again. It was very, I strongly encourage that this continues so that the leaders are developed and this work can be ongoing. Thank you.
So what you have next, you're looking at the itinerary which our participants were able to experience each day. And so it was quite a busy time for them. And so what we'll shift to now is we'll just go around the table so that they can share out some of their comments and items that they gleaned or reflections that they had as they participated through the program. And so I guess we'll start with Mr. Rogers. We'll start on this end, and then we'll work our way around.
Good evening once again. I definitely want to thank the board for allowing us this opportunity just to go, and also thanking Superintendent Adams for that opportunity. So I'm not going to kind of belabor this longer than I need to, but definitely for me as a leader, I took this as an opportunity to grow. One of the things that we're constantly talking about in my building, especially to our staff, is that we're trying to push past our growing edge. And that mantra that we continuously say, they continue to also say that down at this conference, down at this institute. So again, just me personally, I'm always looking for opportunities for myself to grow professionally, and that I was able to do that while I was down there. One of the most, to me anyway, the presenters that kind of stuck to me the most was Stacey Allison, who was the first American woman to reach the summit of Mount Everest. And she was one of the first presenters there, and one of the things that she said was that regardless of what position that we're in, we're going to come to the point where we have to make a decision about what we're willing to risk in order for us to grow. And then in that risk, are we willing to be, or willing to feel a little insecure and not secure in where we sit? So I definitely took that to heart. The moment that it was said, I wrote it down. I emailed it to a couple staff members to kind of remember what it is that we were doing. So that kind of stuck with me. And coincidentally, she was also my leadership consultant. And again, just I've gone to different conferences, I've gone to different institutes. This one stood out to me that was different because there were opportunities for all of the speakers to sit down with us one-on-one and be that leadership consultant for us. So when that was announced, I was expecting for her to sit down with me, for her to give me her life story, for her to tell me all of these strategies that I need to do as a leader. And that wasn't the case at all. She actually allowed me to kind of reflect on my own and listen to everything that I had to say, and then she gave me pointers at the end. And that to me said a lot about what the purpose of this whole institute was. It wasn't about the sage on the stage, literally, the people talking on the stage and look at me. It was more so, how can we grow as leaders? So that definitely stood out to me. I was also able to go to West Point, and just like what Zippy was saying, we definitely were able to take some jewels back to our building with us, but it just reiterated to me, again, the importance of relationships between adults and the students, because that's something that they build into their program, where every student has an adult mentor, because that's how important that they feel that relationship was. Again, just with me, not necessarily anymore being new to the district, but hearing all the time that the district wants to grow its own. We want to grow our own. This to me was kind of that proof that we were going to grow our own, because it was allowing me to push myself. And I'm asking, sitting up here in this position, that if it's indeed true that we're willing to grow our own, and the assistant principals and the principals, whatever have you, we want to be pushed to continue to have these opportunities so that we can definitely push past our growing edge.
Thank you.
I need to take my glasses off so that I can hear what I'm saying. Yeah. So I had such a wonderful time. I'm actually full as I revisit that time we had, besides hanging out with some awesome people. I would like to begin by thanking Superintendent Adams for allowing me to participate in such a culturally rich institute. I was inspired and intrigued every day I attended. These particular presenters, they brought a variety of different perspectives, and they showed you how they navigated through their processes of difficult decisions. One of the ones I want to highlight, my colleague here, Jason, already did, but the first American woman to climb Mount Everest, as she detailed the actual climb, having to deal with leeches, and she and her crew members made it to the top despite all these challenges. She was goal-oriented. And then Lieutenant General Gwen Bingham. She talked about the challenges she faced being an African-American female in the U.S. Army. Richard Carranza, New York City Schools Chancellor, said in his talk, "You are fighters, warriors, protectors of equity." Dolores Huerta, co-founder United Farm Workers with Cesar Chavez, spoke very candidly about a serious social issues such as school-to-prison pipeline and black male suspension rates, which is issues that plague our district today. And then Mayor Ross Baraka, the man was awesome, Newark, New Jersey, gave a very moving speech in which he described the poverty cycle in Newark. He also made a statement relating to trauma, which is the buzzword today. He said that for blacks, there's no post-traumatic. We have always been in trauma. And so that resonated with me. And finally, the Institute inspired me in such a way that it provided an opportunity for me to see people from all across the world, all different states. It was just awesome to be in that particular venue with them. And so it was extremely important for me in understanding how to be courageous when I make difficult decisions that I make quite a few times during the day. But I would finally like to say that I would be more than glad, matter of fact, I would be elated to be able to attend the 22nd Annual Summer Institute called Wrapping Up the Next Generation. or the next decade. I know you didn't ask for all that, but I just want to make sure you understand how excited I am, okay?
Thank you so
very
much.
I have to tell you, she brought me back there. I've got goosebumps from what you shared, and that's how moving it was. And to listen to the speakers, you did a really good job kind of showing what the experience was like.
And for me, just to piggyback on everything that everyone said, it was really a powerful week. And I think for me, it was definitely, as Jason said, a week of reflection. You know, the whole premise of the conference was finding the courage to make challenging or making courageous decisions. And I think as leaders, every day, you know, providing voices to the voiceless is really our charge. And oftentimes, being put in that role, our decisions are not always popular. But what for me was being clear about, you know, what my purpose is. And I think that General spoke a lot about looking at yourself in the mirror and being confident and clear that no matter if it was an unfavorable, you know, decision that had to be made, that you did it in service to the people that you serve. So for me, that was very popular and powerful, I should say. In addition to that, you know, being able to collaborate, because at the end of every session, we actually had a debrief and a planning session because our charge or our goal at the end of the week was to create a leadership model so that we could address the problems that we deal with every day as leaders. And so that's how I really began to, and so my school, of course, became the school that we discussed. And one of the things that really came out is that there were some problems of practice, and I really needed to establish some protocols to ensure that I was getting into classrooms every day and providing my teachers targeted feedback, not the ones who didn't necessarily need to see me every day, but in terms of equity, making sure that everybody got what they deserved. And so that was my takeaway. And so I did find it to be very rewarding, and I really appreciate that opportunity.
So thank you. My apologies. Thank you to the board as well as Superintendent Adams for the opportunity to talk to our experience at NPLI. At West Point, I had the opportunity to meet Captain Plumstead, who talked about his personal mission, and not in those words, but he spoke to the fact that joining the military, what he called, changed his family tree, and he became very emotional when he talked about that. And when people cry, I cry too. So it was a chance too for me to explore my own personal mission and how that relates to the work that we do every single day with the students here in the City School District of Albany. And so if I could just share two quick things that I'm really taking away and will continue to take away from this profound experience. One is that the constructivist approach that was taken as a part of the design of the Institute is one that can be implemented throughout our district when we're thinking about teacher development and our own development. And two, I think Kendra spoke well to the sustained opportunity for reflection. 4 days reflecting on your practice, how your mindset impacts your practice, and how to continue to push yourself so that you're becoming even better as a leader. And so if I can put a shameless plug, it would be to be able to go back. So thank you.
So I can be quick because we've already said a lot of the wonderful opportunities that we had available to us for those 4 to 5 days. But the one thing that I took away the most was about being reflective on a daily basis. And a quote that still sticks with me, and I think about it every day on the way home, was a quote that, if not you, who? And if not now, when? And I think it just spoke to me about the sense of urgency and making sure that every day our focus is on students. And so at the end of the day, I drive home and I always think about that. Like, I might have had those courageous, difficult conversations today, but it's because we need to act now, because these are students and we need to get them to where they need to be.
First, I want to thank Superintendent Adams and the board for allowing us to go to what's such a wonderful institute. It was, I'm conveying the same things that my colleagues do. It was very reflective the whole week. It was actually exhausting when I would go to the hotel room at night, and I was exhausted. I was mentally exhausted, but it was a great exhaustion because what it conveyed to me is that we're not in this alone. Everyone is facing the same challenges and the same obstacles, but yet they're doing it every day, just like all of us that are sitting here. So it reinforced to me that we are fighting a good fight, this institute definitely reinforced that, and it gave us, well, it gave me just, you know, the reinforcement that you know, you can do this job can be done. I would definitely advocate for if not us, another group go, but I'm sure, sorry. I'm sure we would all love the opportunity to go again. So thank you so much, and we'd love to see this keep going. Sorry, Marilyn.
Miss Jo is going to find you later. I wanted to thank you all for being here tonight and sharing with us some intimate ideas of what it was like to be there. We don't often get that level of intimacy when we are providing professional development. We don't always get that feel of what it was like. We do believe strongly in growing our own. We believe fundamentally that that is how Albany will succeed, is by growing our own. We want our teachers, we want our students to be teachers, we want our assistant teachers to be teachers, we want our teachers to be principals and our assistant principals to be principals, and we want future superintendents sitting at that table. That is what we want as a board. So I am going to remind my board colleagues that we would like to always be very goal-oriented with our meetings, and while I would love to sit and talk with all of you for really the rest of the night, would be much more fun than some of the other business we have to conduct. We do have a lot of business to conduct, so I would like you to think about whether you have a question that leads to a goal, or if you really feel that you need to say some, you know, a positive comment. I do understand that, but let's try and keep our remarks very short so we can stay on target. Ms. Smith has her hand up.
I'm just a comment. I am so delighted to hear this feedback, to learn of your growth. It makes me personally, and I'm sure the board, very happy to have you go through this process, because it was deeply personal. It wasn't just, as you say, a conference, deeply personal, and risk, respect, growth, all of those reflectiveness. I can't tell you how important I think that is, this process is for you and for your students and families. So I personally feel like you do not need to thank us. Thank you for being the risk takers, and the fact that you also got to have this world where the activists that you talked about, I have met and experienced with them on a different realm, and it's so nice to see this come together. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing increasingly great things out of each one of you.
Ms. Lang.
So thank you. I wanted to ask, how did this conference in particular, especially since you're advocating to go again, align with our district's mission goal statement?
Is it on? All right. So the way that I envisioned it as, you know, aligning with our mission as a district, as an independent school, is, like I said, my takeaway was the goal orientation, right? You have your community, you have, for us, it is to be able to collaborate, but not only that, one of the things that I took away was the not leading as a leader, but leading as a coach, which I believe aligns perfectly with our mission as a school and our vision as a school, to be able to, you know, make your staff not following you, but you following your staff. So one thing that we learned about was getting toward something and not being pushed away, which I believe kind of is where we're going as a district, right? Where we want to collaborate. I want to call other schools and be able to get their opinion about something. I want to be able to use what is positive in their school as well as what's worked in my school, give to them. So the collaboration between the community as well as, you know, the goal orientation. So.
Any other board questions or comments? Ms. Roach.
I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your experiences. I was really excited to see the information and see that it's It sounded like it was both leaders from the realm of education as well as leaders from other areas, whether it's corporate or military or nonprofits or political or social justice. And I think there's probably something really valuable to talk to leaders across those different domains and share ideas. So thank you for taking your time to go there and report back to us.
Dr. Chator.
I'm so glad that you guys had this wonderful opportunity. The only thing I can ask of you is pay it forward. Be that one change for that one person in your daily life, and then we'll all be all in for Albany.
Anyone else have a comment? Thank you all so much for being here tonight and for your work that you do every single day. We know what you're doing in those buildings, and we believe in you. That brings us to the discussion item, middle school alignment process and findings. Oh, I'm sorry, Melissa, I didn't forget you. Pre-K, so sorry. Discussion for pre-K.
I'm sorry.
I'll try, now that I'm warm. Shocking.
So, good evening again, and we would like to take this opportunity, Madam President, members of the board, thank you so very much for this opportunity. Under the leadership of Dr. Cecily Wilson-Turner, our pre-kindergarten program review is here, and we're going to hear from our Director of Early Childhood Education, Ms. Melissa Hasty. So, welcome.
Thank you, board members, Superintendent Adams, and Cabinet for allowing me to come and speak with you about our pre-kindergarten program. So this year is very exciting, as all are. We have serving 1,074 students, 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, in 31 different locations at each one of our 12 elementary schools and 19 child care centers throughout our district catchment area. We have 71 classrooms, 45 of those which are for 4-year-olds, 19 that serve 3-year-olds, and those are all in our community-based organizations, as well as 7 multi-age 3-year-old and 4-year-old classrooms. So they have students that are both 3 and 4 in those, and those are all also located in our child care centers. Our current enrollment, which was as of the beginning of November, was 1,008 students. We have 18 spots that are still being held for placements for CPSE with integrated programming, both in our elementary schools and in off-site locations. At the time of the program review submission, we had 53 students in progress for evaluations through the community, through the CBOs. Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you. I forgot. We're like very close here. So, like I was saying, we have 53 outstanding evaluations that are in process right now through the Committee of Preschool Special Education. And I continue to review enrollment annually and throughout the year. Last year, we had decreased the number of 4-year-old spots that we had and increased the number of 3-year-olds because of demand. We're looking at probably doing that again this year, is reducing the number of 4-year-old openings, because when you look at the enrollment, that's where the majority of the openings are right now. So we've kind of oversaturated the community right now with so many 4-year-old openings at spots, at 786. So we're looking at reducing the 4-year-olds a bit and increasing our 3-year-old enrollment. I'm purple, I know. And I also wanted to let you know that I continue to work very closely with Central Registration and with MARVA. We meet on a monthly basis and review all of the enrollment at all of our sites, on-site and off-site, talk about wait lists, talk about where we have the majority of our openings, and that conversation also leads into when we make our decisions of where we're going to have our spots for 3s and 4s for the upcoming year, and if we have to make reductions or adjustments. So on to our department program and staff. and our child care programs, or excuse me, our department and program staffing. So today I have with me my amazing team of early childhood coordinators. There are one coordinator, Bridget Dodson, and Lisa Lomberger, Rita Dolan, and Nicole Madison, who are our assistant coordinators. And they are amazing, hardworking coaches. I tried in my program review just to outline a little bit of the work that they do so that you had a better understanding of what their days and evenings look like as part of the early childhood department. They are a cohesive team. We've really worked this year on building on each person's strengths and having them lead professional development sessions at an area of strength for them, providing support with behaviors when it is a strength for them. So really honing in on each person's strengths and building responsibilities around that. And they not only conduct site visits on a daily basis to each one of their assigned sites. Typically there's about 17 classrooms that each one of them is assigned to. They do site visits and provide technical assistance. So for our teachers, providing support with instruction, with behaviors. They plan for and conduct our monthly mandatory professional development sessions. So each month we bring together the 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, teachers and teaching assistants, which results in about 150 staff people. And they provide specific professional development based on our goals and the needs that we find when they're conducting their site visits and through our discussions during our our department meetings, excuse me. So they additionally present the family engagement sessions. So we sit together and plan those as a team, and then they present those family engagement sessions for both My Brother's Keeper Challenge Grant, as well as the family engagement sessions that we do as part of our early childhood department. This year they've moved to Schuyler Achievement Academy. The last few years we've been at Giffen. We decided that we should move to a different part of the city to try and hit a new cohort of families. So that is our sessions that run October to May are here at Schuyler Achievement Academy, and they are all focused on language and literacy, the essential skills for literacy instruction. So the team presents those as well each month. And I am proud to say that we submitted a proposal last year to present at the New York State Association of the Education of Young Children Conference in Turning Stone, and our proposal was accepted. Being the newbies on the block, we of course got the Saturday morning 7 a.m. slot. We were capped at like 35 to 40 people, and we were thinking, no one's gonna get up at 7 a.m. on a Saturday to come see us, talk about STEAM and loose parts, and we were standing room only and had amazing feedback from our presentation. Amazing enough that we were contacted by local school districts to come and present our presentation to their staff. We were also asked by the Binghamton Association of Education of Young Children to come and present for them as well. So we're trying to work out the details if we're able to do that. State Education Department also reached out to us to ask us to participate in the upcoming conference as part of their State Education Department Office of Early Learning PETA 2 strand of this same conference. So we submitted 2 proposals. They asked us to do the same one that we had done, as well as one to outline our family engagement sessions, what those 2 hours look like, and share that. So we'll be presenting both of those if our conference approvals are accepted. And I'd also like to say that and give a shout out to 2 of our directors that came. Faye Silver's here from the Boys and Girls Club. She's the pre-K director who has oversees the sites in our elementary buildings, as well as Demetra Sparrett, who is the director and owner of Infinite Care, which is our pre-K program around the corner that serves 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. So I'm grateful that they're here to support me, and I'm grateful that they're partners with us because we're doing some really great work. On to our teaching staff. So we have the 5 district staffed classrooms, the dual language at Delaware Community School, as well as the 4 Montessori programs. And then the other 66 classrooms, community-based organizations. We have 30 classrooms in our elementary schools and 36 in the community-based organizations off-site for 4-year-olds. I'm excited to say that this year we actually had a little bit higher of a teacher retention rate with our 4-year-old teachers. And in the elementary school, we had 25 of the 30 that's including the district teachers, return, which is amazing. We haven't had that in some time. So I'm really grateful for that. And we're really starting to see some excellent programmatic implementation of things that we've introduced, which I'll get to in a few minutes. I'd like to highlight that the State Education Department Office of Early Learning contacted us in the spring to participate in some exemplar videos that they were doing around best practice in early childhood. So they videotaped actually in the spring 3 of our classrooms, a 3-year-old classroom and 2 4-year-old classrooms at Arbor Hill, as well as interviewed myself, Roz Gaines, Harrell, Zuleika Sanchez, to participate in those videos that will be coming out later in the winter. So that's very exciting to be recognized for the program that we put forth and to be participate in those state ed videos. Okay, you're right on top of things. There you go. So this year, our 2018-2019 year program budget was a total of $6,706,010. The grant funds from this was $5,306,481. You can see the breakdown of our UPK and our EPK grant allocations. An exciting thing that's happening in the upcoming year of 1920 is that EPK is actually going to be merging with UPK, so that we'll have one funding stream across our programs. So that gives us a little bit of fluidity because although when you look at those two numbers, there's only roughly $624,000 difference, the number of students that are served in the EPK grant is grossly less than what is served in the UPK grant. So being able to merge those together will give us a little bit more flexibility with the funding that we're having. The general fund contribution is about $1.4 million, with $180,000 going directly from community school sites to go into our contractual piece in those community schools. Now we get into the exciting stuff for me. Our department focuses. So I just wanted to give you a little bit update of the work that we've done from 17-18 and how that's transitioned into this year, as well as what our focus areas are for 18-19. And so last year, for the last few years, we had done some very structured work around phonological awareness. We took the data and the conversations that we had at core vertical alignment and noticed that and recognized that the students were coming in very strong in phonics, but not so much in phonological awareness. And so we worked with Dr. Lori Strong to review our assessment, make any necessary adjustments, and create a more structured and specific ELA pacing map that incorporated the phonological awareness from the first unit through. And so this year is the first full year that the resources and the pacing map are being implemented. And my team is monitoring that implementation through lesson plan review that are submitted each week to them, through summaries and goals that are submitted when we conduct assessments, which is approximately every 10 to 15 weeks, as well as during their site visits, looking at the explicit instruction that's happening in small group and one-on-one work. And I wanted to say that we have even taken a step further to take our class summaries and color code them in bands to look at student growth and meeting our proficiency or our exit outcomes in pre-K. And so each time, the 3 times for the majority of the components, the teachers submit their data, it will automatically populate and come up to the color that they are. So right now, when we did our baseline in the beginning of October, we had, in some programs, a lot of red, but we're hoping to see, as we go through, that they'll turn to yellow and to green, and the green would be showing the exit outcomes and expectations for that. So we monitor that internally as well, and as well as working on that with our directors during our bi-monthly director meetings, looking more closely at the data to ensure that students are growing and moving as they need to be. For our family engagement session, I already spoke about that we chose to move from Giffen, where we had been for the last few years, over to here at Schuyler Achievement Academy for our monthly sessions, in hopes to grab another core group of families and to do that work. We're working on, with Mr. Poindexter especially, on building our capacity and our attendance to those. We'll continue to do our parent university sessions, and we also have 3 sessions planned for the summer to do the getting ready for kindergarten session as well. And those we typically hold in the local libraries so that we can, again, reach a broader population. The policies, protocols, and procedures, just as we continue to develop as a team, we continue to create policies and protocols that will help to ensure that all of our locations and all of our providers have the same understanding and expectations around things. And so to date, we have created about 24 policies and procedures to help monitor and support consistent programming implementation across the program. So for this year, for 2018-2019, we have focused on social emotional development, concept development and lesson planning, and math, the math pacing map, and explicit instruction. And so the social emotional development piece came from noticing that we've had some students that are coming in with some more significant behaviors that are at a tier 2 and tier 3 level. And so making sure that our teachers, because we do have that higher teacher turnover rate than we would see in a typical program, that the teachers need to have the skills and the understanding to support those students and families with those behaviors. And so in aligned with the district vision and mission and the goals around supporting social emotional development and the whole child, we've provided trauma training for our teachers and teaching assistants. So in August, we did trauma training 1. So that really gave kind of an understanding of what the components of the ACEs and the affects on the brain for the early childhood student, and really getting the teachers to understand the knowledge around the impact of that, and that when they're initiating behaviors, that they don't have the language or their skills at this point to self-regulate or to tell you how they're feeling, so that those behaviors are that component. We then, on November 6th, provided Trauma 2 training to our teachers. And we've done all of this in small professional learning communities, so no group larger than 30, so that they really have that opportunity to learn and ask questions in a comfortable and safe environment. And because that was so well received for Trauma 1 and Trauma 2, as people were leaving, as our teachers and teaching assistants were leaving Trauma 2 training, they were requesting or asking if there was going to be a Trauma 3. So we're actually working with Kim Polstein from the Coordinating Council to develop a Trauma 3 model, because she hadn't already had one established, where it will be looking at typical scenarios that you would see in an early childhood classroom, and like the books that you had when you were younger, where and you get to the bottom of the page and it was like, you can choose this way or choose this route. That will be what the scenarios will be, so that they can look to see if they did this, how could that exacerbate the situation or help reduce the situation, or if you chose this method, how that could help. So we're really giving now doing a deep dive into when you exhibit those when the children exhibit those behaviors, how can you react and support that child in the proper way to reduce that and to teach them that piece. Okay, so moving on to concept development and lesson plan. And so we meet as a team bi-weekly for an hour-and-a-half department meeting, and within that we talk about the site visits that the teachers or that the coordinators are going on. We review lesson plans together as a team, and what we were noticing through our conversations is that the teachers were really kind of skimming the top of our unit themes and topics, and that's not really what we want them to be doing. We want them to be digging deep into a topic, because they're building on prior knowledge. They're supporting language skills. They are, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Prior knowledge, building on language skills. They're asking questions, and they're having the students ask the questions, and those questions are what's driving the learning. So they are potentially conducting research on topics such as animals. And diving deeper into the topic really engages the students, and we're doing that across not only the instructional components that they're doing, but really, and most importantly, in play. And because in early childhood, the children do the most of their learning and are best engaged when they're playing, when they're interacting, when they're touching, when they're talking to one another. And with the teacher, that's what's really extending and supporting their learning. And so we've done some professional development with the teachers throughout this year so far around the schema and how it supports concept development. So really making those connections, going from where the children are and what they know about a topic, what their questions are, and then planning driven around what their ideas and their thoughts are, and really supporting the children in being engaged participants in that learning. So we focused this year on dramatic play because that provides so many authentic literacy, reading, and writing experiences for children. And this, just this November, because we did the professional learning communities on the PD day, we pulled the teachers into 3 sessions of 2 hours each. So when our team did a training on concept development around the restaurant theme, and provide specific examples and materials and resources of anchor charts that could be used, how the teachers could be providing research opportunities around that topic, and how they can then be connecting it to our unit theme, which is celebrations around the world. And also how, with the celebrations around the world, recognizing some of those worldly monuments, so bringing that into the Block Center play, so actually bringing in photographs of monuments around the world and encouraging the children to look more closely at them, be architects, make blueprints, and then build those models. So that's our concept development piece. So with the lesson planning, of course, if we're really focusing on diving deep into a topic and not hitting that surface, we needed to modify our lesson plan so that that matched what we were asking for. So we did that over the summer as a team, and we have implemented that this year. And we are looking at the lesson plans that we're receiving more intently in our bi-weekly meetings, and then looking at where our exemplar classrooms are with regard to the lesson planning and how we need to support and scaffold the teachers that may not necessarily understand what we're looking for with the digging deep and how enriching and important it is for the children in their development. And then the last thing is the math pacing map. So after we did all that tremendous work on the phonological awareness piece, the teachers that we've had with us for a few years now, said, now that you've done this for ELA, can you do the same thing for math? And we said, absolutely. We were on the same wavelength as you already. And so we have been looking more closely at our pacing map currently for math is very much aligned to the Engage New York and a lot of those lessons and components there. So we're revamping and modifying that and looking at the K priority standards, attending the embedded PD for kindergarten for both ELA and math to make sure that we're aligned vertically to them and preparing the students with that. So our math is really going to be focused on the priority standards. We've already started to introduce the idea of the counting collections in pre-K, which is a huge thing in kindergarten, so that we can support the math skills in that piece. So our PD in January, our evening PD in January, will focus on math, roll out the drafts, resources and materials that will support the teachers with their explicit small group instruction on the various topics throughout the year. Okay, so last year I had a lot of asks, and we so appreciate the copier. So thank you. That is amazing. And the increase of $100 for the per pupil allocation for our 4-year-olds on-site and off-site. My only ask this year is the same ask that I have every year, is that we look at increasing the per pupil allocation for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds across the board. Because that increase in per pupil allocation, we ask when we meet with the directors on the programs that we collaborate with, that go mostly directly into teacher salaries, because we want to keep and maintain the teachers that we're growing. We understand with the model that we have that this is a stepping stone, but we'd like to be able to keep and grow those teachers for 3 or 4 years at a time, because that's really what's going to make the impact on our students that are sitting in program right now. So I'm asking for a $250 increase across the board for 3-year-olds on-site, for 4-year-olds on-site. The increase would be to $4,950. The off-site increase for 4-year-olds would be $5,200, and for 3-year-olds, $5,200. And the reason why I would like to have the 3-year-olds and the 4-year-olds off-site is that then I can have a more fluid enrollment, that if I have an opening in a 3-year-old, I have to come to you for an addendum, which could take time away from enrolling a student, where if I have that fluidity with the same per pupil allocation, I can just contract for a certain number with a provider, and then as an opening occurs, if I have a wait list for a 3-year-old, I can fill it with a 3-year-old. If I have a wait list for a 4-year-old and no 3-year-old, I can fill it that way. So the amount total for all of that would be the $222,000 for just the per pupil allocation. The caveat with that is that before I mentioned, is that the 3-year-old and 4-year-old, the EPK and the UPK funding are coming together under the same stream next year. I sat down with Eileen Leffler for some preliminary conversations around what that could look like for our budget. So this would be if I did not take any money from EPK, to support UPK. This is just the complete ask. This, I will be able to, in my opinion, cover at least the 3-year-old one, the 3-year-old increase, and maybe partial of the 4-year-old. But I wanted to go in high and then be able to come back and say, I don't really need that much. And it's all about supporting our teachers and such. So the other piece that I put in here was the professional salaries for the district pre-kindergarten teaching staff. There are, as before mentioned, the 5 district teachers plus 3.5 TAs, and then a teacher's aide that are from general fund, that their funding comes from general fund. This again is a higher estimate than what we thought it was. This is before the contract was signed for teachers, for the APSTA, and so I overestimated that as well. And that doesn't always get included in the piece that I submit to you, but it is important to note that increase. So my potential total ask would be $249,104, with the majority of that going directly into our CBOs to support increases in salary so that we can maintain high-quality teaching staff in our programs. So before we get to questions, I hope that I was able to, through my conversation with you, show how we've aligned our program to the district vision and mission and the goals that they have. And last year, we had done some work initially in our directors meeting with our directors about coming up with a vision and mission. And when Superintendent Adams had done the work around the district with this, we decided that that's what we needed to go with, to adopt that from the start, but make it our own. And I saw this image, and it resonated with me. And I talked about it with my team in our bi-weekly meeting, and I talked about it with the directors. And to me, this is all about, for everything that we do in our early childhood program, everything that comes out of our office, every decision that we make, everything that we do, every professional development, every family engagement session, is all about keeping the children at the heart of the work. Because without that, we're not going to continue to grow and change. So, thank you. Not the hard part.
We always love when you come, Ms. Hasty, and fill us with enthusiasm for early childhood. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'm going to ask that you very specifically think about what is your most important question, your one most important question, and think about asking that first, because our hope was to maintain discussion on this topic to 10 minutes, and I'd like to try and hold to that. There are 7 of us, so 10 minutes goes by very, very quickly. So who has a very important question for Ms. Hasty? Ms. Roach.
I did want to start by saying thank you for a wonderful presentation. I'm really excited that we have enough 4-year-old slots for everyone in the city that wants one, because I know that's something that not every community can say. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited by the professional development you're doing and by your balancing the social emotional needs of the students as well as developmental learning through play. The question I had, just really briefly, was what percentage of the community-based partner teachers are currently certified? And I have a lot more really words of praise for this program that I will, out of respect to the
Thank you,
president.
Ms. Roach. I appreciate that. Would you prefer to send us that by email?
I would really, because of like all the papers I
That
brought.
is
That was
absolutely
not one thing, so I
fine.
apologize, but
Right,
I will.
Ms. Roach, you're okay with that, right? Terrific. Who else would like to ask something? Ms. Lang?
You provided data with the 4-year-old program to the 5-year-old program in there. Have you started assessing the data from the 3-year-olds to the 4-year-olds? How is our 3-year-old program doing? Is it too early because it's too new, or how are you seeing those cohorts?
So the 3-year-old program is a little bit different than the 4-year-old program because the main component and the main focus of the 3-year-old program is that social emotional piece. And so the academics don't really come into play until 4-year-old pre-K. And so when we haven't looked, it's difficult because there isn't something that we use to measure how they are social emotionally when they enter school, enter the 4-year-old program. But I can say that we have conversations. So there isn't a data component to be able to say that the social emotional piece is stronger because they attended our 3-year-old program. But we do have conversations with both our providers around the social emotional piece, as well as we get a lot of feedback from kindergarten teachers, from coaches. Regina McCormick, when she was in the LA coach, would talk about how when she was assessing the students at SPA, and she would know which ones had attended pre-K just from the level of the conversation that they were having. So they might not have been demonstrating the skill, but the way that they were able to sit and attend while she was asking those questions, she could look at it and see. And Lori Ellis said the same thing to us this year, that it was clear the students that had attended our program, but we don't have the data around the social emotional piece to show, how it supports students.
Anyone else? Ms. Mann?
Hi. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
The question that I have had to do with the family engagement as you've recently switched from Giffen to here. And how has that, and I don't need exact numbers, but how has that been? How's the turnout been, or is it still something that's growing?
It's something that's growing.
Okay.
And Nolene Smith really supported our program at Giffen, so she did outreach for us as well. We had one parent the first time that we had a session, and the second session that we had, we didn't have anyone, but it was the day that all of a sudden the snowstorm came, just before it started. But we're working very closely with Mr. Poindexter, and he's doing the Rolo calls for us, as well as flyers out in the community in multiple locations. And we have a session coming up for My Brother's Keeper here next Tuesday, and we already had a parent sign up for it. So I think that we had a great turnout at our Toast event this past Tuesday, and a lot of positive feedback from the parents that attended. So I'm hoping that word will get around about the sessions.
Anyone else have a first question? Ms. Lang?
Okay, so I want to talk to you all night, and I'm sorry. So I was at Delaware Community this morning, and there was SED in the building filming for the pre-K and K.
Exemplar video.
Okay, I didn't see you, but I asked what's going on. And then I heard that it was for the pre-K bilingual program, or all the pre-K.
It's the exemplar videos.
Okay, that's what I was going to say.
So they
if you could
didn't
talk
have
about
enough
that.
footage in the spring, so they came back around and asked if we had additional classrooms, and asked about ones that would potentially highlight multilingual, because we have in our pre-K program alone, I think it's 29 different languages that are spoken. And I said, well, why don't you highlight the dual language program? And they did. So they went into pre-K to videotape and into kindergarten to videotape. And they're going next Wednesday to Centro Civico, which is our child care center in the South End. That is also a bilingual program. So they're going there to videotape as well. And those will all be included in the exemplar video that's released.
Sorry. And that's what added to the Arbor Hill as well?
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hasty. We appreciate your being here tonight.
Thank you.
Now it brings us to the discussion of the middle school alignment process and findings.
So as we transition to our middle school alignment presentation, Madam President, members of the board, I have Assistant Superintendent Lori McKenna, who supervises our secondary education division, and Karen Bechtel, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction. And so they're going to share with you all of the items that are listed on the agenda. They're going to just flow right from one stage to the next. As you know, we've gone through a middle school alignment process beginning in 2016, and now it's culminating this year. Also, as we look at reviewing what we put in place and seeing what some changes may need to be along the way. as we prepare for the 1920 school year. And so what you'll hear this evening, the process and findings of putting together the process of ensuring that our 3 middle schools are aligned, looking at the transition of our students from 5th grade to 6th grade, and then those students who are in the 6th grade elementary schools to a middle school in the 7th grade, and then looking at what support we have in place for our elementary students that are in the 6th grade and in an elementary setting. So with that, I will turn the time over to Ms. McKenna and Ms. Bechtel.
Thank you very much. So we're excited to be up in front of you again to talk about the middle school alignment. And we're super excited because this is the first year of our middle school alignment, and we know it's not perfect. And we know that we had to make mid-course corrections, and we're in the process, as Ms. Adams just stated, at looking at some of the changes for the 1920 school year. So we'll take you through what we hope will answer all of your questions, and we'll be out of here just like Melissa was, quickly. So the rationale for the key alignment points. So there are really two pieces to the middle school alignment work. One is really around the New York State Education Department Part 100.4 regulations that outline the middle school requirements, and then the middle school alignment also ensures that there's equitable and consistent programming for all middle school students. We had 3 middle schools providing 3 very different course of studies for each grade level. We weren't meeting the minimum requirements for the units of study per the Part 100.4 of the New York State regulations. And it was really important for us to recognize that some, but not all, were receiving instruction around health, facts, technology, music, and art. And we were really not providing that equitable course of study for our middle school students. And so this work was super important during the 16-17 school year to ensure that we were moving forward, providing that equitable and consistent programming for our students. We went through, gosh, what seemed to be a several-year process. We started out in September of 2016, but it really actually started the year before with Ms. Bechtel when she met with, in the 15-16 school year, when she met with the middle school and high school guidance counselors and the instructional supervisors, and they really started that conversation. When I came on board, Ms. Bechtel and I met, and we talked about the importance of the middle school alignment, and so we really focused on just bringing the middle school stakeholders together to begin the middle school alignment work. A committee was formed, and we met to discuss the consistent programming across the 3 middle schools. That work continued from December through, December, January of the 2017-18 school year. We also met with the district-wide building level curriculum team leaders to discuss the need for equitable and consistent programming for our middle school students, so they provided their input to us. In spring of 2017, as you know, we were heavily involved in opening up our 3rd middle school, Edmund O'Neill Middle School of Excellence. So our focus shifted slightly during that year to make sure that we had staffing and programming, and Edmund O'Neill was ready to open up in September of 2017. So it shifted just a little bit, but we picked up where we left off in September of 2017. We again brought our stakeholders, the middle school principals and the secondary supervisors together to really focus on the middle school alignment work for implementation in the 2018-19 school year. So we set aside and dedicated during last year a good portion of our middle school principals meetings each month on the middle school alignment work because we wanted to get it right. In December, we did have a final draft course framework that was completely aligned to the New York State Part 100 regulations for our 3 middle schools. In January of 2018, we met with our guidance counselors at the middle school level, shared the alignment work with them with a focus on honors and AIS and RTI equitable scheduling with and across the district. what we found is that when we were looking at this middle school alignment, we also found that there was inequity in our honors classes at the middle school level. So this really gave us an opportunity to take a look at the criteria for students entering or being scheduled into an honors class in 7th and 8th grade. And I'm happy to say, and it's a good problem to have, that we have seen an increase in the number of students who are in honors courses in both 7th and 8th grade, and we will be looking at a pretty large increase in our middle schools for living environment next year. So that's really great. We continued January, February, March on that middle school alignment work. We then met with the communications office to talk about our vision of creating the middle school curriculum guide. Each one of the instructional supervisors provided us with a framework of what the curriculum would look like at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level, along with the special education, ENL, and PPS supervisors or directors. They provided us with PBIS, the special ed regulations, the Part 154 regulations, et cetera, because we really wanted it to be a comprehensive middle school alignment guide that would really give parents and students entering middle school a thorough understanding of what to expect in middle school. We were hoping to have the curriculum guides distributed to families in June of 2018. That was a pretty ambitious goal, just knowing that it was the first time that we were developing a comprehensive document like this. We had to delay it because we wanted to get it right. It was completed in August of 2018, and we were able to distribute to families at back to school night in this past fall. And then, as you know, we did present the middle school curriculum guide to you, the Board of Education.
Alrighty, so as Ms. McKenna has said, the middle school alignment came out of getting into compliance and paying attention to the Part 100.4 regulations from the New York State Education Department. In grade 6, beyond the 4 cores, we must include the arts, career development, and that requirement is currently met in the enrichment class, health, physical education, and family and consumer science. The state ed does not dictate the units of study for grade 6. Grade 6 in the middle level is sometimes sort of a gray place because sometimes 6th grade is in elementary, sometimes it's in middle, same for 5th. 5th, 6th have some different regulations. We have chosen to incorporate an enrichment period to support the transition to middle school. In grade 5, our students have 150 minutes of ELA in the elementary classroom. With the enrichment period, we have 80 minutes of ELA at the middle level. So we went from 150 minutes in elementary school. When you come into the middle level, we have 2 periods, about 80 minutes. Still, it's less than half, but it is one of the reasons that we have chosen to establish the enrichment classes. And grade 6 math is only just slightly less than how many minutes of math in grade 5, which is 90 in grade 5 to 80 minutes in grade 6. A change that we created in the process of the enrichment period is the computer-assisted instruction. And this, we've called this sort of fancy name computer-assisted instruction, but, web-based software programs have been a part of what we have done in the middle schools and in elementary schools since we've had access to them. I think the reason that this one became so very public is because we had a devoted period and then made a change, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. In 6th grade in the elementary schools, the change there is that we did implement health. Some of our problems or our obstacles around we have 4 schools with 6 grades in it, and then the rest of our 6th grade is middle school, is that it created this uneven alignment. So the children would come into 7th grade and they might miss something that they were given in the middle school 3-year period where we try to accommodate the units of study. So we pushed the health down into the 6th grade in the elementary buildings. In grades 7 and 8, beyond the 4 cores, the 2 units of study equals 2 years, the following is required. There's 1 unit of study for technology, 3/4 of a unit of study for family and consumer science, which is such an odd, it's like 3/4 of a year. It's an odd regulation, but that's what it is. For CSDA, we meet a quarter of that in grade 6. They have the 10-week, that quarter-long FACS class. Phys ed every other day in grade 7 and 8, so it ends up being 1 unit of study. Health, a half a unit of study, and we are allowed to provide that in grade 6 as long as it is taught by a health teacher, which we have done. The arts, a half a unit of study in the visual arts and a half of unit of study in music. Library skills, 1 period a week, can be incorporated into other courses. World language, 2 units of study by the end of grade 9. So most often this is completed by the end of grade 8, but on occasion kids will go to high school not having passed the proficiency and will be in Spanish 9, or I'm sorry, Spanish 1, which is similar to Spanish 8 at the middle. That's how we schedule them. And then career development, and which also can be incorporated into other courses. We have a unit in FACS that's devoted to that. And then the AIS, RTI, ENL resource, those are determined based on individual student need. One of the things that I really wanted to make sure was clear is that there's not a lot of wiggle room in a middle school schedule. There's not a lot of choice. The Part 100.4 really dictate how a middle school is structured. The choice might be if a student is an instrumental student in vocal music, we work that out. And then that is, and the way we build the schedule is sort of on this 4x4, so you might have your health is backed up perhaps against your vocal class, so the every other day structure. You might have some quarter courses like computers or music for students who are not in instrumental music and need that music requirement. And then those 2 quarter courses are sort of backed up against the health course. So in a scheduling environment, that 4x4 structure helps us fit everything in, and we have to look at each individual child and see where they are to see where their schedule will end up. And then back to Lori.
I talked a little bit about this already when we were going over the timeline for the process that we went through with the curriculum guide. So now that we have this middle school alignment across our 3 middle schools, we knew that our next step was really to develop this comprehensive curriculum guide to share with our students and families. And this was really, it's my understanding that this was really the first time that we had this comprehensive middle school curriculum guide to share out. And the goal, like I said, was really to roll it out in the spring of 2018. Ambitious goal, it was delayed, but we were able to get it out to parents at our back to school nights and present it to you in September of 2018. We are in the process of working on the 2019-20 schedule for middle school students. The curriculum guide will be available to parents in the spring of 2019 to provide a better understanding of the middle school program. We're making some minor revisions now to get hopefully reprinted in January, and then with some additional updates and a final revision for May, early June to distribute to families.
So back to the computer-assisted instruction, as Lori has mentioned, there were some bumps with our alignment process, and this was one of them. We had originally scheduled it every day, and really the way that the program is designed is that was actually too much time. So we did take a step back and say, well, we're not going to spend a whole year doing it this way. Let's fix this. We're early enough into the year to do that. And so that's what we did. We were responsive to what emerged as a part of implementation. So the way that it works through quarters 2 through 4 is that the grade 6 students are scheduled into ELA enrichment every day and math enrichment every day. And in those classes, they get 20 minutes of the iReady program 2 times a week and 20 minutes of the math program 2 times a week in a station. And this is actually, as I had mentioned before, a typical way that we have used these online programs to help support our instructional program. iReady is a research-based program, and families can check their child's progress in the program at any time from home. They can access with their child's log-on and take a look and see where they are working in the program.
So on the horizon, what's next? So we spend a little bit of time at each of our middle school principals meeting really reflecting on the middle school alignment and having conversations around how we can improve this. So one of the areas that we've talked about this year is looking at offering an exploratory world language experience for our students in 6th grade. And this would provide them with a 10-week exploratory experience in the 2 world languages that are offered in each one of the buildings to help students make an informed decision prior to making a selection for 7th and 8th grade. So for example, at Hackett and Myers, it would be Spanish and French, and then at O'Neill, it would be Spanish and Chinese. So we're looking at that. We're looking at scheduling implications to see if there is a budget impact. I think just recently, as today, I've had a conversation with a building principal, and I think we can be creative to minimize the impact on the budget for the 1920 school year. So we're really excited about that. The transition from 6th grade elementary school to middle school. As you all know, we offer shadowing to our 5th grade students entering in 6th grade and 6th grade students entering at the elementary level into 7th grade. There is really an inequity in that shadowing experience for students. Only one school did it this year because we are in that transition year, and we are looking to phase out shadowing because of that inequity and provide in the spring, this spring, an opportunity for all 6th grades, or 5th grade students to visit their middle school for next year. So we're excited about that. We've started the conversation, and we just have to finalize what that looks like around the logistics and transportation, et cetera. So all students entering in the middle school for the 1920 school year will have the experience of visiting their middle school in the spring. So that's exciting. We're also in conversation around transition from middle school to high school. Very early stages. We have not had our first meeting yet, but we are in the process of that and what that looks like. Doesn't stop the work that we've done in the past. Our guidance counselors are still exposing our middle school students to what they can expect as far as the course of study and course selections, et cetera. But we are looking to really improve on the transition from middle school to high school. I just don't have a lot more information on that. And then finally, revising the middle school curriculum guide. We've already mentioned that a couple of times. Like I said, this is the first year of the middle school alignment implementation. We know that it's not 100% perfect. We want to get it perfect. So we are looking at making those adjustments and having it available for our students and our families this spring. Okay, no questions? Thank you very much.
Sadly for you both, we scheduled 20 minutes for discussion for this topic rather than 10.
I know, I was sweating when I saw that.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the board, again, I ask you to prioritize your questions in your mind and ask your most important first question first, because we're each going to do one question at a time. And if we get a chance to go around a second time, that's lovely, but I cannot guarantee that's going to happen in 20 minutes. Ms. Roach has her hand up.
Oh, thank you for the presentation. And I had a very basic question, which was, what's filling the time for the sixth graders now that they no longer have 40 minutes a day of computer-aided instruction? If I understand correctly, they were getting 40 minutes of English enrichment, 40 minutes of math enrichment, and 40 minutes of computer-aided instruction 5 days a week. That wasn't true?
So the way it worked at the sixth grade level is they had math enrichment every other day, ELA enrichment every other day, and then opposite was the computer-assisted instruction. So what we were able to do without, with minimal impact on a student's schedule was to just shift. Instead of having every other day enrichment, they went every day for ELA enrichment, and now they're going every day for math enrichment.
So it was every other day English and every other day math, and then every other day, but I'm still lost here. Sorry.
In quarter one, they had, so say period one was English enrichment one day and math enrichment the next day, and period two was CAI every day.
Every day, okay.
So
I
it's still
see.
2 periods. It's just that it's restructured to programmatically to meet the needs of kids, and it's more appropriate.
Okay, so instead of like 20 minutes, essentially on average, 20 minutes of math enrichment and 20 minutes of ELE enrichment and 40 minutes of computer time every day. Now they're getting 40 minutes of English and 40 minutes of math, and within that is sandwiched in. Every day. Okay, yes. I understand now. Thank you so much.
Who would like to be next? Ms. Lang?
So I want to, I have can I say two things? On the horizon.
Can you try and do one at a time so that we can go around?
One is a okay. I guess I'll do my question. Because the honors was changed and there was more, and I know that at Hackett they actually had to add another honors math, so that was good for numbers, but also just good. And I've always kind of heard that the goal is really to have all of our kids in algebra in 8th grade or world sciences, or that science, so that they're not behind when they go into high school. And I was wondering, has there been kind of a plan or a vertical alignment to try to start that process to get our middle schools at those rigorous levels?
It certainly is an aspirational goal. It does happen in some schools where all students access algebra in grade 8. We're not there yet, but I think that the shift this year in the alignment and the change of the honors criteria has been really helpful, because we've been able to look very closely at the data rather than recommendations to make decisions about where kids need to be. I think as we continue to strengthen our math program, and that will be showing up as a priority as we move forward in the budget process, that we would love to see more and more kids be ready for algebra in grade 8. I mean, the plan is really to pay attention to the data and place kids in there accordingly. We want to be more inclusive about who goes into algebra. We would really need to have a plan to make sure that students in 6th and 7th grade got those skills that they would need, because in essence what you do is you skip a year's standards, and sometimes that could have long-term impact later on for higher level maths. So there's a lot to be discussed around that idea, but it's certainly an aspirational goal.
I just want to build on that. One of the things that we're beginning to begin at the elementary level and working our way up from K-12 is around the gifted and talented, the enrichment, and the honors, and what that looks like at elementary level, feeding into the middle level, and then to the high school. So I think as we begin to build it at the elementary level, we'll begin to see more students prepared at the middle and high school level.
Ms. Wilson?
The one thing I wanted to mention is the middle school, I apologize. the curriculum guide from I was really blown away when you guys presented it, and I loved it. So I look forward to the enhancements that you're going to produce, because I saw it sort of from the perspective of, we're talking about the child in the classroom, but for the parent, putting the child in school, what they're going to anticipate. So what to expect when, and what's coming down the pipeline. I thought that was excellent.
Anyone else have a question? Before you go, I do have one. I was just going to let everybody else be first. Ms. Mann, did you have one? Okay. Dr. Tur. I wanted to just talk for a moment about shadowing. I cannot thank you enough for your attentiveness to shadowing. It has been one of the biggest inequities that I've seen as a parent in this district. I think it was an absolute outrage, and I'm sorry to get emotional about it, but I found it to be an absolute outrage that only students whose parents had their act together enough to call and schedule an appointment and be the first one in the door got to shadow. It guaranteed that the children who needed to shadow the most got to shadow the least. And I am so thrilled to see us moving away from that. I do want to ask a question related, which is, what is this new model going to look like? Is it going to be similar to shadowing, where a child will get to experience a middle school day as a partner? Have you gotten that far in your thinking about what that will look like?
So we are in the planning stages of what it actually looks like as far as the agenda for the students. But what we're envisioning, and Karen, you can jump into, is when students first arrive at the middle, we would release students, the middle school students, so it wouldn't be a matchup of students at the elementary level matched up with a middle school student. It just, logistically, it would not be possible having that many students in the building at one time. But we would absolutely have students follow a they would have the experience of what it feels like to go from bell to bell to classes. We would meet in the auditorium and explain the structure of a middle school day. They would meet the 6th grade team. They would also have experience with the lockers, the cafeteria, get a tour of the building. And that would be like an hour and a half, 2-hour type of an experience.
I'd like you to keep thinking about that, because I will say, as a child who did shadow, the most valuable part of shadowing was seeing the thing happen live. That was the most valuable thing. And I'm not going to pursue this and take time on this, but I'm not sure I understand the numbers that mean that we can't get one class a day for 12 days or something. You know, there's only 100 students that enter Myers at 6th grade. Why we can't get them all? But I trust you to have thought that through. But I will tell you that we would be missing out on the single most valuable experience for a child having my child's a 7th grader, the single most important thing in reassuring her that Myers was going to be a good place for her to be, and I don't tell many anecdotes about my own children, those of you who listen to me on the board floor know, was being there with middle school in session and experiencing it. So if that is lost as an effort, as part of this, I think we've lost a lot. If we gain the equity, fundamentally, if we have to do it that way, I would prefer the equitable outcome, but I do think we've lost something important.
We will take that into consideration. It's on our agenda for the December principals meeting.
Terrific, thank you.
I also wanted to ask the question, if you're going to release the students early, are they going to miss instruction?
At this time, here's what I'm going to say. We're going to get into the weeds right now, and I think that's operational for us to be able to take it back, because we will probably go through several scenarios before we commit to something. And so understanding what the priorities are, we have that, and we'll be able to work through those details to make sure that we don't lose anything. Because even if it gets to the point where it's a modified schedule of some sort, those are things that are all under consideration. But there have been there's no finalization as to what that looks like right now.
Well, we very much look forward to what the next version of this when we have some more real. But it's wonderful to see progress made on the equity front. We really appreciate it. Ms. Alexander-Mann, are you ready?
Thank you for your presentation. My question has to do with the computer-assisted instruction, and because I don't do it every day, right? So what does the physical classroom setup look like when the kids are on the computer for those 20 minutes? Like, are there other kids in the class? Is there a teacher? Is there a TA? Like, can you
There really are a variety of structures depending upon what different buildings can do. But I would say a good model of what you would expect to see is that you have a teacher, you might have the TA in there as well, and basically in those classes the idea is that you're meeting the needs of the kids where they are. So small group instruction is the order of the day. So you would expect to see some students at a station of 3 or 4 computers or netbooks, maybe 5 kids on netbooks working on this, while the teacher might have a group of 6 or 7 kids over here, and then other kids would be working independently. Very typical almost of what you would see during guided reading in an elementary level, where the children are in a variety of spaces working on a variety of tasks that is at their level.
And is the work, are they assessments, or what are the children doing when they're on the computer?
The program, if they have modules. There's module programs. I think each of them take about maybe 40 minutes to complete. So you might do half of it one day, and then you pick up on the next time that you actually get on there later on in the week. And then there is a quick assessment that tells how you've done, and for you to move on. I mean, we could probably walk you through it, better at. If you wanted
that's
to,
helpful. That's what I needed.
Like, there's reading passages, or there's the math passages, and that's how it would look. We'd love to show you.
Thank you.
Ms. Smith?
Thank you. Just a real quick question, and I feel like I should know the answer to this, but I don't. How do we decide which world languages will go into our schools? And I recognize that, and part of asking is, I recognize that things like sign language, ASL, or Latin or Greek, staffing becomes an issue too, because we don't often find as many teachers in those regard. But I just wanted to confirm how we choose.
Well, I think historically in the City School District of Albany, we have had the French, Spanish, and Chinese at the high school. So we would start with those languages at an earlier point. We wouldn't, there hasn't been a call to add another language or to delete another language, so that those are our languages. There has been a desire to increase our Chinese, which was why we were able to put the .4 teacher at O'Neill and to try to grow our Chinese program. We have to be careful about stretching out the languages too much, and foreign language teachers are also becoming hard to find.
Madam President, members of the board, Vice President Smith, one of the other components with offering Chinese at O'Neill was the student interest. We did do a survey and poll our students, and so it was a benefit to us because it worked out staffing-wise, but also that it was an interest of our students.
Who has a second question? Ms. Lang?
So on the horizon, one of the things that I would like maybe to be considered too is the philosophy on or parent-teacher conferences. I know that one middle school sent out to every student, please schedule, and another middle school said we only call those parents who are failing, and that's our philosophy. Those are two completely different philosophies. Even if I start to get into, I don't know that parent-teacher conferences is the first mode of conversation if they've already received an F or receiving an F. But I would like that to be part of the horizon when going, and also communication. I think that the middle schools, all three of them, which are very, very different, and I have a much better feel of what goes on day to day at one middle school versus the other middle schools, and I think that that's a disservice to families as well.
Agreed. And one of the things that is not on here that we are in conversation with our principals around is the criteria for honor roll, the bronze, the silver, and the gold. There's some slight differences, not only in the way the middle schools implement honor roll, but also in the mindset of behind honor roll. So we are working with our principals. I started that work this week, and hopeful to have a consistent process in place and shifting the mindset of our stakeholders at the schools.
Ms. Wills, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Roach.
Just to follow up on the foreign language questions, I was excited to see the exploratory world language in 6th grade because, of course, it's very important to start languages as young as possible. I also, though, had some questions about it. The first question was, you said it was 20 weeks. Would it be 10 weeks of each language? So each kid would get 10 weeks of French followed by 10 weeks of Spanish. Is there any precedent in doing that in other schools? Is it that kids are picking a language and then expressing dissatisfaction with it, or we just want to start them early? What was this in response to something?
I think there are other schools that do this exploratory, and it would be a way to help with our 4x4 structure too at the 6th grade as we are trying to schedule students. But it's really just a way to introduce them, have them dip their toe into the water of two foreign languages, and then at the end, when they do their schedule, they'll be like, I really loved French, or I really loved the French teacher. Sometimes that's the motivation for a student.
I guess one of the things that we had a lot of feedback about with the sort of integration of that equitable middle school curriculum, a lot of people were really upset to lose visual art at the 6th grade, which some 6th graders were getting. So I'm wondering, what would this exploratory world language class replace in a current 6th grader schedule? Would it replace a study hall, or would it replace an enrichment period? And what other options, if we seem to have an extra 20-week, a half-day period for these 6th graders, what other options have we considered for that?
I don't think, I'm sorry. Computers and library. Lori has a plan. I think we're very early, in the very early stages of looking at how this works, but what I'm hearing is computers and library. Library skills can really be incorporated into your ELA, all of your classes, actually.
Thank you.
Ms. Wilson.
I again want to be complimentary this time about the ability to make the mid-course corrections and not being totally committed to something because we said we're going to do it X, Y, and Z way. So thank you for that also. And about the career development, it says the requirement is met in enrichment, and I'm anticipating that's what the objective of the CAI course was, to sort of support that, or?
So this is for the 6th grade, the career development. This would be in some content that you might do with kids from time to time in that class. It's a very light requirement. Our larger requirement is in the FACS at 8th grade, when we have a unit of study and where the kids are introduced to Naviance, which is our system that we use at the high school level. And they do resume writing, and they do college. They search for colleges and careers and look at what things cost and how what the pathway is and those kinds of things. That's a much more robust unit that we do in grade 8. Grade 6 would be, from time to time, some content area work would be included.
I totally understand. I guess my question is sort of like in line with Damaris's question about sort of what, I guess you illustrated that it looks different in every school, every setting, the unit. So I was wondering if there's any sort of incorporating like project-based learning during that period, while some students are on the computer and others are in like the small groups.
In the enrichment period?
Yes.
Yeah, I would imagine that. Not that I would imagine. That's part of what the teachers do.
Okay, thank you so much.
So another second question. My second question is whether where we are on the grade 6 ELA enrichment, because last year was the first year that was pretty much a required class for every 6th grader, and we went through some bumps in the road on how that class was structured. And I've been really enjoying and appreciating the concept from the Equity 101 book that the superintendent has been encouraging people to read about individualization as equity, right? Really, that's meeting every child where they are and making sure that every child succeeds is really a part of having an equitable program. And I know, at least at the beginning of last year's 6th grade, a lot of kids felt that was not sufficiently individualized, differentiated in that second period. This is at Myers specifically, where it was a new thing. And so I'm wondering where we are on the development of that 6th grade ELA curriculum for the enrichment period, and whether we feel like we've given enough tools to the teachers to really differentiate so that every child is getting value out of that time.
As our teachers get more and more comfortable with using data, and then that's helping with that differentiation. And then in addition, I think the introduction of the iReady program into the enrichment period helps too, because it's very clearly laid out where the student is. And then, you know, iReady is a program that it's not just this, put this child on a computer and then walk away and they're done. And it's really about taking that information, using that information, and incorporating it into that small group study. So that was one of the reasons that we really wanted to incorporate it into the program. And yes, and of course there's ongoing curriculum development. I can't believe I didn't say that because I'm in charge of that, and I do it all. We're doing it all the time. Jen Houlihan spearheads our ELA program and has already done such awesome work in terms of really strengthening the rigor of the program and instituting the you know, a data-informed instruction. What's coming down the line too from Jen is the secondary RTI plan, which RTI, as you've heard me say many times, is really a philosophy. It's like a sort of this tiered philosophy of meeting the needs of children where they are. And so Mrs. Houlihan has been working with a task force on that, so that further helps the teachers. It helps the reading instructors dig down and differentiate for where the children are.
Is anybody who has not asked a second question like to ask a second question? Okay, are we done? Ms. Lang, do you have a third question, or are you okay? She probably does, but she doesn't want to get things thrown at her by her board colleagues. Okay, she turned her microphone off, so I think that we were going to excuse you ladies and appreciate your taking the time to report on this to us.
So at this time, Ms. Bechtel is going to stay as we move to our next presentation and look at the college-level rigorous programs at Albany High.
Don't you think?
Okay, good evening. I'd like to introduce Ms. Julie Barber, who is the Innovation Academy Principal, and Mrs. Suzanne Cornell, who is the Citizenship Academy Principal. And they are here with me to give this, the college-level rigorous programs at Albany High presentation. And I'm going to start, and then Julie and Suzanne are going to pick up in a little bit in the presentation. So one of the really great things about doing the work with the course book, which I cannot wait to report out on how good the Albany High course book looks with our most recent revision. But that process and then working on this report was really helpful for me to crystallize all of these programs that we have at the high school. And I think it's important for the board and our community to understand how each of these programs work. So we did it in alphabetical order, and starting with advanced placement. This is college level coursework. There is college credit possible. It's dependent upon an exam score, and it is also dependent upon the college that the student will attend. So in most cases, the scale of the exam is a 1 through 5. The exams are given in May. And a score of 3 might, in some colleges, you might get college credit for that. A 4 or 5 is a little bit more of a sure bet. We're pretty excited that we actually had 57% of our students achieve a 3 or better in 2018, and 28% over a quarter with a 4 or 5. And you may be thinking, but what about the other 43%? But what I would like to point out is that the process of sitting in an AP class and in that rigorous class is a benefit even when students do not achieve at that 3 or better level. We have 20 AP courses available at Albany High School, and that list is in your report. And we give approximately 700 tests each year, taken by approximately a little over 400 students. These are a la carte courses in that they are not contingent upon one another. There are some sort of sequences, but any of those courses could be accessed independently. We've provided you with a data chart that shows the number of exams, shows our ethnicity. I was actually a little disappointed. We had seen an upward trend in our Black African American students from 2016, 2017, and then that's gone back down. So we have to talk about why that is the case. Otherwise, the ethnic data, the race data is fairly steady across the line, and I've already talked about how the students are scoring. Our next program that I would like to speak to is the International Baccalaureate Program. Again, this is college-level coursework, very rigorous. College credit is possible, just as in AP, it is dependent upon both the exam and other assessment scores that occur during the year, and is at the discretion of the intended college of the student. So once the student applies, I want to go here, they submit, and then the college says, yes, we're going to give you so many credits and apply them in this way. There are 19 IB courses available. I heard Mrs. Erling speak about there actually being 11. Those courses are co-seated, so, or they're sometimes co-seated, so yes, I could see where the 11 comes in, but at the same time, we are distinctly aligning, you know, the HL English 11 and the HL English 12. They exist as two courses for us. The certificate programs is a la carte. So you can access an IB course, go through and complete all the requirements and get a certificate, an IB certificate for that course. The diploma course, the diploma program is actually quite different. It's a very prescribed program that begins in junior year. Students are required to take 3 standard level courses and then 3 higher level courses, which are the 2-year courses that begin in junior year and go into senior year. Theory of knowledge course is both in junior year and senior year. And then so that you could see how a schedule would really be loaded up. The extended essay and research and the CAS, the Creativity Activity Service, those projects are outside of the courses and are the responsibility of the student outside of there, with support and help. We try to provide that. We also have some IB data. IB came to Albany High in the mid 2004 or 5, and we have the results from all those years. It does appear in the mid-years from 2008 to about 2011. You know, we had on average about 100 kids, a little over 100 kids get certificates. We've never really had kids get the diplomas. We average about 6.2 diplomas for our 14 years of IB, and that has lessened in recent years. Our next program is UHS, University in the High School. This is a little bit different than AP and IB because the college credit-bearing courses, the student is registered for that upon enrollment. Upon filling out those papers, sending them off to the college, you are now a student of Hudson Valley or of SUNY Albany, and that transcript you own forever. It's yours for life and can be submitted to any college for consideration for transfer credit. There's some discretion on the college's part of what they'll take. They might take something and call it an elective and maybe not apply it specifically to a program, but usually once you own those credits, you own them. I guess UHS has, we call it has this dual enrollment status because you can be in English 12 and for Albany High getting your English 12 credit. At the same time, if you register, you can get your, well, I think it's the creative writing, for an example, you can access that SUNY credit if you like. So it's dual enrollment in that way. It's dual enrollment also in the same way with AP and IB, but it's just a little bit different because it's sort of, I don't know, it's just sort of this more Albany High curriculum, Albany High course, and then yes, you can get this credit once you apply. We have 20, it's a la carte, you can take them as you like. We have 26 UHS courses currently available, and that chart is in the report. Our partners are Hudson Valley, UAlbany, SUNY College at Potsdam, RIT, the College of St. Rose, and we had approximately 186 students enrolled last year in the college courses. I'm going to turn this over to Mrs. Barber to, you gotta bring it up, yep. To speak about student survey data.
When notified we were being asked to update the board on our college level rigorous programs, we thought it would be a good idea to get some input from our current students sitting in AP, IB, and UHS courses, as well as a sampling of our freshmen to hear their perspective as well. We asked teachers of our higher level courses to have one section of their classes take the 5-minute survey. We were able to get a nice representation of students by doing so. We had 257 students participate in the survey designed for students enrolled in our college level courses. And out of the 257 students, 159 had or were taking more than one advanced class. And of the 257 students, 26% had previously dropped an AP, IB, or UHS course. Next slide. The ethnicity and racial makeup of the participants is a nice representation of the whole student body. We had 24% of the respondents in the 10th grade, and 76% were either in the 11th or 12th grade. Out of the students surveyed, you can see which classes were or are currently being taken, showing the popularity of some, as you can see.
I'm just going to jump in there. So what we did is we indicated on each of those courses the number of students currently signed up or enrolled in those courses. That's those numbers next to the courses.
When asked why students chose to take an advanced course, 72% selected the possibility to earn college credit, 46% because they are interested in the content area, 51% to experience the challenge of college expectations, and 35% because their teacher or counselor suggested that they take the course, 17% because their parents suggested they take the course, and 18% because they knew their friends were going to take it. So we have a little bit of positive peer influence there. And then you can see in the board report as well that we asked additional questions regarding program preference, challenges, and expectations. To gain some other important information, we surveyed just shy of 200 freshmen in our college and career preparation courses. When asked if they planned on taking an IB, AP, or UHS course, 53 students, or approximately 25%, chose no. 49% of those students selected that they were not interested in it. 39% chose that it was too much work. 37% that they were too difficult. 25% not enough information to make a decision, and 20% did not feel adequately prepared to do so. But on the flip side, 75% indicated that they did indeed plan on taking an advanced course in AP, IB, or UHS.
And I would like to add, I actually found that to be very exciting, to have 75% of those kids say that they were interested, and to know the reasons why they might not try to access it, because I think that gives us really good insight and a little bit of a roadmap for how to bring these higher level classes and make them accessible to the kids. 75% are saying, yeah, I'm ready, so that's the good news.
Good evening. I'm going to talk about the self-study IB review process. This began in 2017 and continued throughout our last school year until the spring of 2018. And being an IB World school, the requirement is that you participate in a self-study every 5 years. And this is to get an authentic view, an honest survey of the stakeholders in the program as to how the components are going within the program that IB expects you to follow in order to ensure that the integrity of the program is being maintained. So components of the self-study included stakeholders, students, teachers, administrators, and parents participating in surveys, interviews, and study groups. Then we compiled a report, and it was submitted to Ms. Comerford and then to the IB World School Organization in June. Several months ago, we received the results of the review back from the organization, and it was comprised of 3 different areas were evaluated: the IB philosophy within our school, the organization, and the curriculum. A rating is given as to whether these areas came back satisfactory or requiring significant attention. Those that required significant attention are considered to be matters to be addressed, and you're given a time frame within which you have to come up with plans, which I'm going to articulate, that this past review had stated. I'm sorry. Oh, yes. In addition, they periodically audit or decide that they want to participate in a visit, and they have indicated that as such. So they're planning on visiting for the 2019-2020 school year. We would arrange that. Sometimes they coincide with other local or regional schools in the area. However, that will be at our expense to put them up and have them come visit. So again, the 3 areas that were assessed were philosophy, organization, and curriculum. For Standard A, philosophy, the areas that were matters to be addressed that came back included designing an updated action plan that serves to promote and develop the program, to ensure that the IB philosophy and learner profile is widespread throughout our school and pedagogically throughout our belief system. Implementation of strategies to develop, again, as I say, the intermindedness of the IB learner, and strategies that would ensure that we're increasing participation, not only in those that take the independent courses for certificates, but certainly those that wish to complete the full IB diploma. The second section, Standard B, was the organization. And the matters to be addressed indicated that one big key piece is the appointment of a diploma program coordinator. I know that's been indicated in the more comprehensive report. At one point, we did have a full-time coordinator, and at this time, this current year, the responsibilities are being split between Mrs. Barber and myself. In addition, updating our program to really be more inclusive of students receiving special educational services and students that receive English as a new language services, so that we're providing access and equity to everyone in the population. In addition, it's just really updating and streamlining everything that needs to happen that hasn't happened in the past, just updating all our policies to be current, instead of reflecting what happened 5 years ago on the last review. Let's see. Yes, definitely we did provide a tentative budget, but they looked at that and they wanted it to be revised with a succinct timeline that will fully support the program.
I think another key finding was that the plan include providing the diploma program teachers time to plan together. And that was something that we heard loud and clear when we did the self-study, and that professional development for untrained teachers so that they're prepared to deliver the program.
Thank you. Yes, that also falls under Standard C, the third section, the curriculum. The teachers currently, they meet together in common planning time or at department meetings as a department, but those teachers that are a part of the IB coursework would need additional separate time to ensure that they're all aligning to the IB philosophy. A more comprehensive written curriculum should be developed for each course. And again, as I just mentioned, making sure that we're aligning with the most recent publications online, training, and providing further PD, not only for the new teachers, but some of the teachers have not been sent to professional development in the past several years, so we would need to do that. Yeah, thank you.
The timeline for these matters to be addressed is June the 1st of 2019, so we have quite a bit of work ahead of us. I wanted to speak for a few minutes about a research article that I read. Sorry, I fell behind on this. So IB had, several years ago, had really looked closely at their mission and wanted to be more inclusive and not known as this sort of just elite program. It was one of their goals as an organization to open up access. And as a result of that, they received a federal grant to provide support to Title I schools. There were 4 sites. And it was a very fascinating article. I did put the link in the report, and it was very interesting because I found a lot of parallels between those schools and our own school, and some issues with implementation. They actually provided the support on site to these places, and then this evaluation by NYU, they must have been the independent evaluator for the grant. So there were challenges. One of the things that was a requirement is that there be a middle school pathway to the high school. That was something that IB, when they were speaking about opening up access, that it was really very important that at the younger grades that philosophy of IB be nurtured, so that when students came to the high school, they would be prepared. It is a school-wide model at middle level, sort of similarly to AVID in a sense, is that you can get this sort of school-wide sense about college and career. So in the same way, there's a school-wide philosophy of IB. And it's really a whole school reform model in a sense at the middle level and even at the high school, because you're looking for people all along the organization and all the stakeholders to have this IB state of mind. So there were some challenges. There's some progress was made. I loved the quote at the bottom there. It says, "Perhaps most challenging of all, they have taken on the task of changing beliefs and expectations to convince and to demonstrate that disadvantaged students in disadvantaged schools can succeed in being IB." And then finally, as we finished the report and really looked at all these 65 courses that we're offering at Albany High, offering students to access that college rigor level, what came to me is that what we value student choice. That value is loud and clear. The board values it, the cabinet values it, Albany High values it, and that's a really neat thing, because we want our students' experience to be diverse. We want them to be hooked. We want them to find something. It's why we have Project Lead the Way, CTE, AP, IB, UHS, and a variety of other things, so that any student who comes to our high school can find something that would be appropriate. So those, when we think about academic choice, it's also about academic opportunity preparation. There's a high cognitive demand, and that whole idea of college and career readiness. There are challenges, though, when you have choice. And that's, you know, you sort of pay that, you pay a little bit of a price because you do struggle with fidelity. And that is what has occurred with IB. You struggle with fidelity, with the wide array of choices. You struggle to have the, you know, the laser-like focus on a program, and that's what has really occurred. Logistics are also, when you have so much choice. We have, if I'd had a little bit more time, I wanted to do, maybe when I'll put it at the bottom of my to-do list. I would love to take a look at other high school course books and see how many courses they're offering, because I suspect that Albany High, as far and away, offers more than any local, certainly any local district. And that what ends up happening is that your pathways through those courses become so multitudinous that you end up having logistics and scheduling issues, which is, those are real issues. And then, you know, your human capacity to manage all of those systems, and the fiscal, you have to have the fiscal capacity as well. In that IB article that I read, you know, they had talked about those same kinds of issues that folks had with the school instability too, and turnover, teacher turnover, having, you know, trying to even staff the coordinator. I read that because, as you know, that we have struggled too with staffing the IB coordinator. Now, granted, it's a little .2 position, and we are exploring the possibility of being able to make that, you know, if larger, if not a full time. There's some things in play that we're looking at, but all of those things impact when you have this multitude of programs. It's why when we look at AP and the UHS, which are a la carte, it's their, you know, the kids access them, they move on. IB is a requirement for a school-wide stance about how IB would live in our schools. So, and I don't think I had anything else. Is that the end? Oh, next steps. How could I forget? All right. So we need to meet the requirements of the IB review. We have to ensure that there's appropriate funding, and that will be a part of the 2019-2020 budget process for personnel, for training, for marketing, communication. We have to explore the implementation of theory of knowledge, maybe in the freshman seminar class. It's something we'd have to look into. We have to build our academically rigorous pathways for instruction. I mean, that's something that we're committed to and have been. And we have to do that from that middle level and push that up, and even elementary to some degree. We have to prepare students for higher level and higher cognitive demand. Otherwise, they're not ready. And it has to start even earlier. And that earlier start would facilitate the success of AP, IB, and UHS programs at our high school. And one final thing, because in the process, you may note the data was not consistent that I provided in the report, because it was hard because the way we collected it. I mean, you don't have to, you sign up for the AP exam, what time of the year, like November, December? Yeah, so you're signing up now. If you don't sign up, you don't take the test, but you're in the AP exam and we're pulling those numbers. We could get the AP data because the College Board has it. UHS is also different. And I spoke with Brent Cady, who does Project Lead the Way, the other day, and he told me that the only way he knows when kids access the Project Lead the Way credits, which is 4 credits from RIT for $225, is when in the fall he gets a rebate of $20 per student for those students who actually applied for the credit. And that's when he was telling me the story, it was like a no-brainer, because the kids take the test, you get the results almost immediately in the spring, and you have until November or maybe late October to sign up for those credits. So we have to do more work to make sure more kids are getting those credits when they're eligible to get them. But School Tool is going to help us because we can tag things in different ways. So that's something to look forward to.
Board colleagues. Now we have tried to absorb all of the Albany High rigorous programs in 25 minutes of lecture. So this is going to be an interesting set of questions, I suspect. Everyone, please prioritize your questions and ask your most important question first. We have 20 minutes for discussion on this topic, so that usually means we each get to ask 2 questions. Who would like to go first? Ellen, you went first last time, and Dr. Chidor has his hand up, so I'm going to go Dr. Chidor.
So my question is towards pathways, regardless of whether it's IP, AP, or what have you. We offer a few things, but we can't offer everything. But are there possibilities? You have the UHS program, which is separate, but let's say an IB in biology, for example, right? And we used to have that in the past, I think, which we don't now. So let's say you can offer one class in the high school, but can the student go to, say, UAlbany or Hudson Valley and take another biology class and get that to qualify as a second higher level biology?
The curriculum for IB is very specific.
It has to be at the high school?
Yes, and it has to be the IB course and curriculum, yes.
Ms. Roche?
I guess I would like to thank you for the report and the data. It was helpful in trying to analyze what's going on with some of these programs. I've been really pleased over the past few years with the increase in our graduation, with significant increase in our graduation level, and the significant increase in the number of our students that are passing Regents exams. And I think that that's something to be really excited and proud about for you guys. And I'd also say what that means is our students are as well prepared for an IB or an AP or a university curriculum as they ever were. It's not like we had 14 IB diplomas 10 years ago because those students were better qualified. If anything, on average, our students are better qualified now. So while I do think it's important to build those pathways and that rigor starting from middle school, I don't think that's the whole picture. And I don't even think it's just IB. I'm looking at the AP tests and seeing we've got fewer unique students taking an AP exam than we did last year or the year before that. And perhaps even more significantly, the total number of students from 2016 to 2018 has gone up, I believe, by a few hundred. So we're having fewer kids opting for these types of enriched programs. While choice is important, and we certainly are not going to force anyone at gunpoint into advanced course and make them do it, I think there is a place for recruitment. There is definitely a place for recruitment and promotion of our programs, just like we would if we didn't have enough kids to field a lacrosse team, the coach would go out and recruit people and say, you look like you should play lacrosse. Come on, try it out. There's nothing shameful or wrong or coercive about letting kids know about a program they might not be aware of. The myth of choice, in many cases, where there's students that perhaps do not have parents that are totally on top of things and may not know this program exists, to simply say, no, they didn't choose it, I guess not, they guess they don't want it. It's not really, this is all these programs, again, not just IB, but IB is the one that they're saying, we're going to lose this program if we don't actively promote it. And I think that's something we need to do. I also notice, I would also just really push that full-time coordinator, because it looks like those were the years that correlated with the most successful outcomes. Thanks.
If I might add something, okay, thank you very much. One of the things that I think is really important to note is on slide 12, when you look at the students who answered no, and you look at the percentages of what their responses were, some of those items, if students are prepared at earlier ages, and when thinking about preparing students for college readiness courses and higher level courses, sometimes the default is that they don't have an understanding of what the course entails. And so think of it as a big picture approach, in that the earlier that we can provide opportunities for students to be competitive and to be successful in higher level courses, it only benefits us as an organization, it only benefits our students as they transition from school to life. Because then when they make the choice of whether or not to go into an AP class, IB, or UHS class, it is an informed choice. And it is not by default that they are not in the classes. They're not in the classes because they have truly been able to make an educated decision as to whether that is a good fit for them. And so that's kind of the choice piece, and looking at why our students may be saying no, but in preparation, making sure that they're able to be prepared for the courses, and then they can choose with the background and the knowledge of knowing, I know I can do it, but I'm choosing not to because of X, Y, and Z.
Ms. Comerford, did you have something you wanted to share with us? I need to ask you to find a microphone because we record this and it doesn't come out in the mic unless, in the recording unless you're on the mic.
They usually ask me not to use one because I have a loud voice. So just a couple of things. I know you see the dip in the data, and I think that does have a lot to do with us not having a coordinator, which was eliminated a little prior to me coming into the seat. But one of my major goals coming into the seat was to really look at what was going on with our advanced courses. So I've been doing a few different things. I actually just met with the university and the high school yesterday, folks from SUNY Albany, to try and see what else they have to offer us. I went to a PD a few weeks ago on that. They are really excited for Albany to be like the hub for SUNY Albany University and the high school. So I've started some work on that. In addition to last week, I met with our data connection with SUNY, Ken Robin. So he is currently running the numbers for me, and he will have them ready for the January scheduling season of our current 10th grade and 11th grade students who are meeting what we would call criteria, which we don't have developed at the high school, that would be eligible to take advanced courses, or that we think we could challenge to take advanced courses. So he is going to get that to us for me to work with the guidance department to actually develop criteria, because right now it really is based on if the student wants to take it or is interested or being pushed to do so. So that's number one, the data. Two, I think the huge lift was the course offering book and the way our advanced programming was presented to families and students. So we just got those delivered today, and I'm doing presentations on those for all students next week. And I just connected with the middle school folks on doing that for our incoming 8th graders. So I think that'll be a big change in the way it's publicized to families, in addition to our curriculum fair next Wednesday. And then the really big piece that I figured out was missing with all of this is our teachers don't all know all of these great offerings that we have. So I just met with some folks last week and then a different group this week. So I'm doing a subcommittee, like task force right now, to figure out how we train all of our teachers in the building to know what classes that we have to offer to all students. So, you know, when they're sitting in their honors classes now and they're really successful, teachers can speak to, oh, why don't you try that AP class next year? Why don't you try this IB course? But if they haven't been trained in what they are, we can't do that. So that's the 3 next steps to really grow the advanced programming.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful. Ms. Smith.
Thank you. All of this is very exciting. I did want to, and maybe I'm just talking out loud to myself and emphasizing a couple points that I see here. I'm really, really pleased about the discussion on the rigor, the presentation on the rigor, and particularly going down to the lower levels. You know, and I know I've said this before, but I was not very pleased about the experience that a couple of my children had in the middle school. It was not that rigorous in that time. So I'm really excited about this. Some of those same skills that we're talking about that we want to see developed at the high school or want to encourage, I just think it makes absolute sense to see those same things happen at the lower grade levels. And I think along with that, what I also hear you kind of saying is this sort of this culture of changing the expectations, right? There should be more kids you know, and I don't really care what their ultimate pathway might be, whether it's in the trades or in CTE or college. I think it's important that they all understand that they can do it, you know, and this issue about this discussion around choice, some of the problem I see with that too is kids who are there's middle group of kids, I think, and there's a fair number of them, they're terrified. And they haven't necessarily all felt like I can rise to here, right? And so there's just going to always be this sort of difficulty with them. And so I think it's really important that I can see all these pieces. We're trying to make sure we have this beautiful framework implemented, you know, instructional framework. I love it. The rigor is there. The changing of culture, both at all levels, staff and all stakeholders, is so critical. And just giving that sense of you can do it. I know you've heard people say, no, you can't, but I'm telling you, you can. Let's give it a try, you know. So I just wanted to speak that
So
out
one
loud.
other piece I missed, the meeting that I had last week regarding the data, I also met with Albany Promise and Liberty Partnership 2 weeks ago. So it's not just going to be here, take an upper level course, good luck. So we're partnering with those two organizations to hopefully pair those students with a mentor when we get them placed in those courses next year.
Who would like to be next? Ms. Lang?
So one of the things and next steps that I would like to consider is communication. Just more communication in some way, and some kind of real plan of next steps for communicating these programs and when you start communicating. I was just in my parent-teacher conference with my 8th grader for Spanish, and we asked about next courses, and the Spanish teacher said, I'm already talking to them about the International Baccalaureate program, and that's in 8th grade. If the algebra teachers, if the science teachers, if the art teachers in 8th grade are having conversations with our students about IB, AP, all of those programs, and that just showed the data that Lori talked about, which I appreciate as well, but Lori, it shows that we looked at the data and we had to add an entire new section at Hackett, and it looks like another one, which means that without the data, we don't even know what's going on with who knows that they think they could even do these programs, or they don't think they can, regardless if they know it or not. And so I want to thank you for that. And my second statement, is goals. I'd really like to see a little bit more, what are the goals? Are the goals to expand our number of AP courses that our students are taking? Is it to expand the number of students in IB or UHS programs? And a little bit more in depth of what is the goal of the district? Is it to decrease 26% of kids that drop out down to 12%? So I'd like to see a little bit more metrics.
Did you have a specific question on that or no? Okay, it's more of a statement.
So I can tell you, Julie and Suzanne and I went to an AP conference this year, and you know, they didn't just talk about data with students in AP, but advanced courses in general. And I think the rate was like 80% if a student took to go to college, if they took one upper level course leaving high school. Right. So, you know, I think our goal really is to make all of our students leaving college and career ready. So, you know, I don't have this in my next year goal, but in trying to do all these things, I do want that to be a goal for our students leaving Albany High. They're going to try and take at least one upper level course.
Ms. Wilson?
Thank you, and it was an excellent presentation. Thank you all for your work, and very appreciative even the engaged parent advocates who came out tonight, because I think it just shows how we're all committed to CoCoWIDA. We're all in for Albany. So the question, well, my observations are kind of around slide 6. And I just have some questions, and I appreciate also the entire presentation is talking about managing perceptions and the expectations that our students and our families have, and even reinforcing the notion of pushing things down. We talked about that at a former board meeting. We even talked about that in a former presentation this evening, pushing things down, the rigor and everything. My question aligns with sort of, we see like the growth sort of between the 08 and 12 years, and then the staggering down. And I was curious if that goes into sort of student interest, whether it's because the results yield interest. What I mean by that is, so to speak, maybe the initial people who took it had certain results, whether certain schools, certain objectives they made, and then that became a sort of cohort between the families and the students that were sort of in the courses together. And then maybe when that cohort graduated out, that's one thought I was having. Another thing along that line is also, you spoke to friends who had a friend in the course and sort of that sort of peer mirroring and things of that nature. And another thing I was wondering if it impacted interest at all is whether the weighted versus the unweighted GPA was a factor that was playing into whether people are like, I don't want to sort of take a dip in my GPA, I'd rather have a higher number. So these are sort of things that were.
No, but there is some buzz around students about, like class rank, and if those students took upper level classes or not, and have a higher GPA. So,
But no
but
weight.
no schools do
weight.
that. So
No, that's exactly what I was referring to. Is like thinking, well, will this make me take a dip in my class rank or something?
I asked that
Mhm.
question to Kent last year, actually.
I also, to your point, when I look at this data, and I came to the district in 2011, and that is when it was before a receivership, but it was the initial, I don't know, it was the JIT report, if I remember correctly, and when we were really very first, under the microscope with the accountability system, and so Albany High had to shift its attention, and by shifting its attention, got to the outcomes that Ellen was speaking about, which was improving our graduation rate and decreasing dropouts. So that, when I look at this data and that dip, I wonder, and I think it might also correspond with a key person who was a big cheerleader for this. I don't know if he was gone by then, but I don't know if that was corresponding to this as well. But I think there was a lot of change in that 11-12 school year, and that could have resulted in, some attention being diverted away.
Ms. Alexander Mann, do you have something? You can wait and go.
Get it together.
So you're ready, or you want to wait? I couldn't hear you. Okay. So I wanted to just comment philosophically about, yes, we do believe in choice at Albany. I believe that's something that we do believe in as a community. But the other thing we believe in as a community, and we made this commitment a long time ago and have stuck with it all the way, is a very large urban high school. We have made that choice as a community, and we continue to make it every time the option comes up to have 2 smaller high schools or 3 smaller high schools. We've decided no, as a community, we want a big school that has all of the possible resources so that we can offer as many options for kids as we can, because we all know that if we had 2 or 3 smaller high schools, we couldn't offer an IB program in each of them. We couldn't possibly, right? We could not afford to do that. So we probably wouldn't offer it anywhere, because we would then have equity concerns. So having a large urban high school is a choice that we've made that lots of cities don't make, right? Lots of cities choose to have 2 or 3 schools. So having that choice means having a consolidated amount of students, which means a consolidated amount of resources, which means the ability to have specialty programs that you could not possibly have at a smaller school. And that is what I believe underlies our commitment to IB, is that it may never be a program that serves 100 students for diploma, as evidenced by the data, but we have chosen a large high school for the purpose of allowing us to provide CTE, to provide Project Lead the Way, which you couldn't do all of those things in a smaller school. So that's what's underlying, I believe, our community philosophy behind that. So the question I had is, how many of our next steps are we expecting to implement this academic year? Because you talked about the budgetary needs for next academic year, but this report was done a year ago, and the report came back from IB, I don't know, maybe 5-6 months ago. So I would hope that we're in an implementation phase, not only a planning phase for this very important program. And so I would like to know more about what we're doing this year as opposed to next year.
We have to pay attention to the IB report and the matters that need to be addressed. And that we have to submit a document speaking to how we're doing that and what we're doing. So I think as we go through that process of looking at the matters to be addressed, that will help inform any budget needs that we might have that we would bring back to this table as a part of the budget discussion. And then I've heard Jody speak about some of her plans that I think fit into this as well. But I think really what would drive it, we're not worried about UHS and AP. They're running, they're going, they're moving. We might be able to expand UHS with some courses, but IB needs work, and it needs dedicated work. So our place where we're going to start is what the IB organization is telling us we need to do, and how that informs budget. And then at the same time, parallel to that, Jody, I think, will be working on some of the things that she has mentioned here tonight.
With the absence of a coordinator right now, it's very difficult to maintain all of the school improvement efforts that we're making. I presented an idea this week to Lori that we may be able to secure that, but we've also had even just for the .2 position that we currently have, we haven't had anyone apply to that. So I have some things in the works that I think might be possibilities, but without that coordinator, we really are at an impasse a little bit.
Yeah, and so we are looking at funding sources right now to see what we would need to do to make that position whole, and then hopefully be able to fill that position, because we know that that is key.
I think we all definitely agree that that is a key element. Dr. Chator.
No, you can.
I mean, this might sound like rambling, but I wanted to echo the choice versus informed choice thing. And to do that, we need to make sure that the kids in the middle school know those choices. That informed choice is going to depend on who informs them. So we need to make sure the guidance counselors know what IB is, what AP is. And so I think we should try and do some sort of PD for the guidance counselors to get them up to speed on that. I know we talk about this program coordinator that we can't find, but we've been also talking about growing our own. So is there some way where we can send one or two of our teachers to get that educational, piece that we needed to get to that point?
Right. IB offers all sorts of training all year long. So we can access that, but we truly need an internal person, a teacher. They don't need any other credential besides being a certified teacher to express interest and want to do this program, and then they would become what we call a TOSA, a teacher on special assignment, and then we would provide the professional development that they would need. They have training, IB has training specific to the coordinator position.
So if I understand that correctly, when you say you can't find anybody, nobody's applied.
But that was for a .2.
I have a possibility right now.
Okay.
And that was for a .2 release. That means somebody's teaching 4 classes, and they're trying to coordinate this big program on a period a day.
If you don't mind,
So-
I'm just going to interject that we did go, that's exactly what we went through with the fine arts administrator, right?
Yeah.
This is the exact same model where they were at a .4 release because we had 2 .1s for music and a .2 for art, and we all as a team agreed that that was not an adequate way for us to try and make radical change to our music and art programs. That was just a way to limp along, right? And that the only way to really change and improve things was to have a coordinator focused on it, and that is why we have a fine arts supervisor like every other big district in this region. And so I think that we're all, in agreement that somehow we have to figure out a way to get this coordinator, and I leave it to you all to figure out how to do that, but I don't think, and I rarely say this, I don't think I've ever said this as president before, but I don't think the board will be satisfied with the answer, it's a .2 and we can't fill it.
Right.
That's just not okay. That is not an answer, that's a problem. Fix it. That's what we're saying, I think, pretty clearly.
Thanks. No, that was well stated. Thank you for your presentation. When I was looking at the surveys, and there were students that had reported, I don't feel adequately prepared to take an advanced class, and I don't ever want us to rule out the power of that one teacher being a champion for that kid, or even guidance counselor, and making sure that a colleague of mine is in another school district far, far away from Albany, but they have an IB program, and it is a part of the conversation with every single high school student when they're not just IB, advanced standing courses, and university in the high school. It's a part of the conversation for every single student when they're preparing the schedule for the next day. And I think that's, very, very powerful. What's my other comments? I had one other comment here, and yes, I might sound like I'm rambling, but I can appreciate the struggles when you're running a program to maintain model fidelity, and I think that it is absolutely critical to make sure that, as was stated, that there's a stand that is taken, like we're committed to doing X, Y, and Z, so I'm looking forward to getting updates on that. Here's now my question. Would you be able to share a little bit about the teaching staff, those who teach the advanced placement courses, and particularly how many teachers do we have that participate in the IB program?
I would have to get that data for you.
Like
I mean, off the top of my head, their teacher turnover. Some teachers are trained in AP, some are trained in IB, some are trained in both, some are in courses where we need to get teachers trained. That would be a part of the professional development plan that we need to do as a part of this action plan.
And that wasn't a fair question. How many? Because I'm sure there are fewer teachers that teach or are trained to teach in the IB courses, correct?
Yeah, that's a fair thing to say. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And I also would like to mention that I actually think that AVID is a nice partner to this work because I believe that AVID provides that sort of mentoring structure and the tutoring structure right inside the elective class. And we have tried to. Our goal in the AVID for the AVID students is that they achieve 24 college credits by the time they graduate. That's the goal. That's the aspirational goal. And so we are trying to look to get them to move into that direction, but also providing them the support to achieve what it is that they want to achieve. So, there's plenty of, we had the AVID program manager here the last couple of days, and we were talking about IB and the interaction, and those two programs are complementary to one another and can work alongside each other if done well. Yeah.
Board colleagues, we had allocated 20 minutes to this. We're at about, for discussion, I'm not talking about for the presentation, we're at about 25. Some of us have asked 2 questions, some of us have only asked 1. I would like to offer the opportunity to anybody who's only asked 1 question to ask a second question, and then possibly close out. So, Dr. Shore, I think
Can I
you've
make
had
a motion to
2.
extend time? Because this is important.
Well, I would like to give everybody the chance to ask their second question, and then we'll see where we are. Can we do it that way without a formal motion? Okay, so Ms. Roach, Ms. Lang, Ms. Smith, and Ms. Wilson have not yet asked a second question. Ms. Alexander-Mann, I think you did 1 and 2 together there. Is that a fair assessment? Or if you feel like you've only asked 1, feel free to ask a second one. So who would like to go first? Ms. Wilson.
You guys kind of covered everything. Like many people asked things that I had questions about, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
I
Ms. Roach?
don't personally have a second question, but I concur with Dr. Schur that the subject's important, so I would support a motion for extra time if other people have more questions.
Ms. Smith, did you have a second question? Ms. Lang.
So I know my previous statement was a statement, not some questions, but I have to say that I'm very worried about making the requirements if we don't. I had thought that there was more that had been done at this point, and if we have 6 months until this is due, a coordinator to learn what has to be done, the program, I feel like that's a really big learning curve, and I am much more worried about where we are than where I thought we would be from this. I really thought I was going to have some real concrete, this is what we've done, this is where we're progressing, this is where we feel good. And I really haven't heard any of that, and it seems to me that the people that know about the program, whether or not it was their siblings, a friend, a neighbor, are continuing to go through the IB program, and those that don't are continuing to not know much about it. And that, to me, after the conversation we've had for a year, more than I'm not hearing the movement, and I'm just concerned.
I actually think that this meeting is really important to re-energize us to do the work that we need to do. I think that we were waiting for this board meeting to understand the degree that the board is supportive of IB and how they, in this sort of very public setting, and how the board wants us to move forward with it. And that gives us, and then is supportive also of the position. So that gives us the re-energy to move in the direction that you are looking for us to go. We make deadlines all the time. I am not afraid that June 1st deadline, it will occur. I mean, but I think that it was sort of an important symbolic moment for these folks from the high school to sit here and give this presentation and talk about the program and say, okay, the board's ready, they're behind us, and we're ready to go do it.
You know, I have to say too, you know, I can take some ownership in this. You know, I've not even been in the seat a year yet. It'll be January 25th. So, you know, I really did ask coming into the seat to have the time to get us out of receivership. And I will say that I've focused all of my professional development starting this summer around our upper level courses and have made a commitment to that. So, you know, now that we are approaching a 70% graduation rate and on our way out of receivership, I think this is the opportune time for us to start to, you know, look at our population, and with almost a 70% graduation rate, we should have our advanced courses looking differently, which is why I've done some of the work I discussed the last few weeks tonight. So, you know, we needed this time to get in the position that we are in now, and now we can really start to focus on how we support students to rise even higher than they already are.
So I very much appreciate that. The critical need to get us out of receivership was the absolute priority of Albany High, had to be the absolute priority, was the absolute priority. We honor and respect the work you people did to make that happen. It was not an easy lift. We understand, and we really appreciate that. I cannot tell you how thrilled I am to have watched that happen and to have been able to support that. So I can't tell you how happy I am about that. I would like to just point out that as the longest serving board member and as the board president, that this board has been 100% consistent in every time that IB has come up, that we are in support of this program. So I really hope there was no waiting for this board meeting, Karen. That is not, I hope that was really not quite what you meant to say, because we have never said anything else. We made absolutely sure when we met in our August retreat that the word IB was listed as one of our priority activities for this year when we met in August. Not now at the end of November, almost coming into Christmas time, but in August, we made sure that the letters IB were in our priority activities. So I hear that you are doing other things. I hear that it's a huge high school. I hear that there's many, many, many competing priorities. Those are good and valid and true things to say. But to say that you were waiting for the board meeting, I don't think that that's a fair representation of what the board has been saying loud and clear up to and including getting it into our adopted priority activities for the 2018-19 school year. So I understand that that's twice now that I've been pretty assertive from the board president seat, which I normally am not. You've been to a lot of meetings where I've been leading these meetings, and I don't think I've been quite this clear when the board has concerns and the public meeting, but this is a big, big concern. We believe in IB. We believe in having a large urban high school that supports small programs within a large school, which are still bigger than many programs in smaller schools. We've said that loud and clear for every year I've been on this board, and we believe in you. We know you can meet deadlines. We know that. We want something more authentic and complete than just meeting the deadline. We want a true IB program that brings in all of our children. And one of the things that will hopefully take down the tenor of what I'm saying that I would like you to just think about is there's very good research about what happens if your retirement contribution is an opt-out program rather than an opt-in program, right? Everyone knows this research. If HR puts you in your program, puts you in your takes your check and takes part of it and puts it in your retirement program, and you have to write the form to say, I don't want to do that anymore. Most people don't ever get around to writing that in the form, and they have, as a result, a better retirement package. We can do that for our children's. We can put them in the highest level program we think they can do and let them back away. We don't need to ask their permission to let them grow. Give it to them and let them pull back. That is my feeling, that we are too often looking to 14 and 15-year-olds to say, do you want to do more work? I don't know a single 14-year-old who says yes, right? Let's tell them, we're signing you up for AP. We're signing you up for X, and only if their parents complain do we pull them out, instead of the other way around. So that's what I felt I needed to say. If you feel that you need to respond in some way, I trust you and I believe in you and I want to hear what you have to say, but that really struck a chord with, I saw about 7 board members go like this on that comment. So
I would like to take ownership of that. That's not my colleagues here from the high school. I did think it was important that we were here tonight and to hear the message, but they may feel differently. But I will own that statement, and we're ready to move forward.
Madam
Mrs.
President.
Adams.
So I'd like to say thank you very much, and I appreciate all the hard work that our team has done in bringing this presentation forward and supplying all of the backup information. And I think your questions have been spot on with the direction that we are headed in. I believe that we are very clear with regard to IB. As you know, since I started here, I've always talked about how do we build a pathway so that all of our children can have access to the opportunities at higher levels. And if we're not building those pathways, then we will not have sustainable programs for our students. I think it's important to note that while we have been focused on bringing our high school out of receivership, that even in doing that, there are many of the aspects that IB is looking for that we're going to be measured on, that we're going to have to report on this summer. Many of the things that have helped us get out of receivership are going to be applicable to those next steps and to responding to the IB report. So it's not that things are operating in isolation. They are operating hand in glove. There are also other pieces to the puzzle that we are working on. I do think it will be very key that we have the funding mechanism to bring the position from a .2 to a full-time FTE, and those are things that we are working on, that we are committed to. And so I want to just thank you for your support and thank you for all of your encouragement as we move forward in this direction, because we are truly about all students, and with all of the, and this is just my own comment, and so I'll take a little personal privilege or superintendent's privilege. If we spend money on students that are struggling, then we have a responsibility to spend money on students who are achieving. And those students that fall in the middle, we are still committed to their success as well, because if we truly believe in all students, then we believe in all of our students. And so working together to find those mechanisms to support all ends of the spectrum and those in the middle is absolutely something that we have to be committed to. And so if there's a phase-in process, then that's what it is. But know that we are prepared to take on the challenge. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I want to make sure that everyone there and around knows that we trust you and believe in you, and we know you can do this for our students, and we look forward to seeing your success with this. Oh, Dr. Chitoor?
One last question. So this talks about diplomas awarded and certificates awarded. Maybe you have the data of students who applied to the program but decided to drop out. Would that be a better indication? Because I mean, really, this just blows my mind that we are almost as bad as when we started 10 years ago. It shouldn't be that way. I mean, if the number of students who had applied there was a big cohort, but not everybody decided to stick with the program, that's a little bit more palatable to me. And then it opens up a different kind of issues to deal with, but if there are...
I don't have that data in front of me, but I can tell you, majority of the response from students is about choice with IB, and it's more prescriptive for them, and they wind up, we may initially get students in the program, but due to what they have to take, against their interest seems to be the general response of students for not. And we do have a very, I mean, you're not going to get the offerings you're going to get anywhere else in the capital region than you are at
Well,
Albany High School.
we don't want to
So-
be like everybody else. We want to stand out.
Right. So, I think students, that makes them, want to expand all of the different kind of coursework they can take. And that's the majority of the response we got from our kids.
Does anybody else have one last question, or can we bring this to a close? Thank you again. We very much appreciate it. That brings us to board committee reports. Do we have any board committee reports today?
Hi, I'm going to talk about the Government Relations Committee. As most people know, but I will rehash, we had a meeting 2 weeks ago with the Governor's State Education Committee, Dan Fuller. We outlined our priorities. Those continue to be support reduced elementary bus eligibility zones to help with our funding of children that live 0.14 miles. Refugee support for our growing population of ENL students, pre-kindergarten funding, college and career readiness, community schools, and full funding aid. We have a meeting on Monday, which is scheduled with our legislators, Assemblymember Fahey, Assemblymember McDonald, and Senator Breslin, our annual meeting, where we will discuss our priorities as well. We're looking forward to that. The next follow-up will be them coming to one of our budget presentations once the governor's budget comes out and we know a little bit more of the funding. We've been very successful in the last 3 years of doing our kind of a tri-annual lobbying advocacy effort, and hopefully we can continue to bring the money that is needed to our students from the state. The governor's office has been very supportive, and with the support of our legislators and senator, especially with the Senate change, we're hoping that it will be a good year.
Ms. Smith.
Thank you. I just wanted to report on some of the work of the Facilities Committee, a very busy committee, staff in particular, and I just want to give a shout out to all of them, Mr. Hogan, Mr. Mara, Mr. Lesko, our superintendent, and there are probably lots of others. I wanted to first point out a couple of things. As you recall, we have the Mission Accomplished organization conducting our outreach for the workforce development component as well as the MWBEs. And so on November 15th, there was an event at Arbor Hill Neighborhood Association where I believe there were at least 10 individuals from the community who attended that session, so we're delighted at that. And then just today during the lunch hour, there was a MWBE information and coaching session, and there were about 13 individuals there. And so, we're happy to see those numbers, and I believe we'll just begin to see more of an increase given the work that Mission Accomplished is doing. Also wanted to point out that there will be on December 12th a construction trades information session and career fair, and that'll be held at the Finishing Trades Institute on Broadway Ave in Manans. And we have a flyer here, but there are, I think, 2 sessions actually, 9 to 11 or 4 to 6. And so that's at 191 Broadway Avenue in Manans. And again, we're delighted that these events are occurring. And stay tuned, as there will be, I think, another OSHA training in the early winter. So lots of stuff going on. I'd also just like to remind everyone and public who's listening, we do have a nice workforce development brochure that deals with individuals looking to work for us as well as MWBEs, and it is fabulous. So thank you, our communications department, and I always have to give Mr. Jake a shout out. The Facilities Committee met on November 6th, and I see now that I don't believe the agenda or excuse me, the minutes from that meeting were posted, although I have them, unless they're privately held, I can't recall, but I didn't see them on the board docs. Oh, it's in the library. Okay, I'm still learning this system. So they are there, and I do have them from email from Mr. Hogan. Thank you. And so generally, you know, we spend a great deal of time always focused on the high school status update, you know, the construction work. And so you see that information, I think, on a regular basis directly from the high school. And also, I think it's communicated as needed to our public through the SNN. So lots going on there. We also discussed the middle school configuration, which all of you are certainly aware of. And the other piece that's important is we were reviewing feedback from the community survey relative to the 5-year facilities plan. And so that's updated, and we will be hopefully having a referendum. We're planning for a referendum on that in February, I think you said. The next meeting of the Facilities Committee is on December 5th at 5:30, and we've changed the location. Pine Hills Elementary School. See, I thought I had it down, man. Pine Hills Elementary School. And again, that will be quite a full meeting. Public is invited to attend. And we will continue to make sure the board and the public have minutes and information relative to those meetings. So again, thank you, staff, and thank you, board.
Ms. Roach.
Hi, I just wanted to report that I attended a calendar committee meeting as the board's liaison earlier this afternoon, which means that Ms. Bechtel and I have been working together for 7 hours now. More than 7 hours, almost 7 hours now. And we had administrators there as well as representatives from each of the bargaining units. And the goal at the initial meeting was not to actually plan the calendar for the 18-19 year, but more to establish what priorities were in forming that calendar. And we had some really good discussions about what the constraints are in terms of making sure that staff are going to come in on any, making sure that staff are going to be able to make it in any particular day, making sure that we have to sync our schedule with BOCES as much as possible due to out-of-district placements, and making sure that we want our professional development days to be at the beginning of the year and not at the end of the year where they're not as effective. So, some very helpful information.
Ellen, was there any conversation about surveying or how we would determine these questions about whether staff would come? How do we actually know the answer to that question?
We're going to be looking at attendance records for some of the days, specifically the second day of Rosh Hashanah, which we don't typically offer off. But I think we could do some more focused, targeted work about what staff members wouldn't be able to report for work on the high holy days. Assume if we had school on them, that could use some further research. Anecdotally, labor representatives suggested that there would be lots of absences.
Anyone else? Can I get a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting? Ms. Roach, seconded by Ms. Wilson. All in favor?
No, you don't. No, you don't. You got it, you got it, you got it. How are you? Good. we only did it at O'Neill because of staffing. The others, we didn't have a teacher other than Spanish or French. So we were not going to, and I'm glad you didn't ask that, we were not going to ask them